Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. It was an odd-looking vine. Dusky, variegated leaves hunkered against a stem that wound in a stranglehold around the smooth trunk of a balsam fir. Sap drooled down the wounded bark. Pods stuck out from the vine here and there along its length, almost seeming to look warily about for witnesses. It was the smell that had first caught his attention, a smell like the decomposition of something that had been wholly unsavory even in life. Richard scanned for others, but saw none. Everything else looked normal. The maples of the upper ven forest were already tinged with crimson, proudly showing off their new mantle in the light breeze. With nights getting colder, it wouldn't be long before their cousins down in the Heartland woods joined them. Having spent most his life in the woods, Richard knew all the plants, if not by name, by sight. From when Richard was very small, his friend Zed had taken him hunting for special herbs. Zed had sparked Richard's hunger to learn, to know. This vine, though, he had seen only once before, and it wasn't in the woods. He had found a sprig of it at his father's house in the blue clay jar Richard had made when he was a boy. His father had been a trader and had traveled often, looking for the chance exotic or rare item. From a young age, Richard had liked to spend time with Zed while his father was away. Richard's brother, Michael, was a few years older, and having no interest in the woods or Zed's rambling lectures, preferred to spend his time with people of means. Richard often stopped by his father's home, unlike Michael, who was always busy. If his father had gone away, he would leave Richard a message in the blue jar telling him the latest news, some gossip, or of some sight he had seen. 3 weeks before, when Michael had come and told him their father had been murdered, Richard had gone to his father's house, despite his brother's insistence that there was no reason to. Wanting to spare him, the people there didn't let him see the body, but still, he saw the big, sickening splashes and puddles of blood, brown and dry across the plank floor. When Richard came close, voices fell silent, except to offer sympathy, which only deepened the pain. Yet he had heard them talking, in hushed tones, of the stories and the wild rumors of things come out of the boundary. Of magic. Richard was shocked at the way his father's small home had been torn apart, as if a storm had been turned loose inside. Only a few things were left untouched. The blue message jar still sat on the shelf, and inside he found the sprig of vine. It was in his pocket now. What his father meant him to know from it, he couldn't guess. Grief overwhelmed him. That he was grown into manhood offered him no sanctuary from the forlorn feeling of being orphaned and alone in the world, a feeling he had known before, when he was young and his mother died. Michael wouldn't let him have anything to do with the search for the killer. He said he had the best trackers in the army looking, and he wanted Richard to stay out of it, for his own good. So Richard simply didn't show the vine to Michael, and went off alone every day searching for the vine. For 3 weeks he walked the trails of the Heartland woods, but he never saw it. Finally, against his better judgment, he gave in to the whispers in his mind and went to the upper ven forest, close to the boundary. The whispers haunted him with the feeling that he somehow knew something of why his father had been murdered. He knew it was just his own mind thinking, and he told himself to stop trying to give the whispers a life of their own. Zed had taught him better than that. Richard looked up at the big fir tree in its agony of death. He thought again of his father's death. The vine had been there. Now the vine was killing this tree. It couldn't be anything good. Gripping it firmly, he pulled. That's when the vine bit him. Inspecting the small wound, he found something like a thorn embedded in the gash. He reached for his knife to dig out the thorn, but the knife wasn't there. Surprised, he reprimanded himself for allowing his depression to cause him to forget something as basic as taking his knife with him. Using his fingernails, he tried to pull out the thorn. The thorn, as if alive, wiggled itself in deeper. The more he dug, the deeper it went. A hot wave of nausea swept through him, so he stopped. The thorn had disappeared into the oozing blood. The sounds of the forest fell dead still. Richard looked up, flinching as a dark shadow swept over the ground, leaping across limbs and leaves. There was a rushing, whistling sound in the air overhead. The size of the shadow was frightening. Birds burst from cover in the trees. Richard peered up. For an instant he saw something big, big and red. He couldn't imagine what it could be. But the stories of things coming out of the boundary flooded back into his mind, making him go cold to the bone. The vine was trouble, he thought again. This thing in the sky could be no less. He started running. He tried to think of what could be that big and red. It was impossible. There was nothing that flew that was that large. Brush snatched at his pant legs. Dappled swatches of sunlight teased him to look up, but denied him the view he needed. Searching the sky, he spot thing, far away and too small for him to tell what it was, but he thought it had wings. It slipped behind a hill and was gone. He hadn't even been able to tell if it really was red. Winded, Richard slumped down on a granite boulder at the side of the trail. He stared at Trunt Lake below. Maybe he should go tell Michael. No, Michael would only be angry with him for being up near the boundary and for going against his orders to stay out of the search for the murderer. He knew his brother cared about him, or he wouldn't always be nagging him. He decided he shouldn't feel singled out. After all, Michael was always telling everyone what to do, even their father. He pushed his harsh judgments of his brother aside. Today was a big day for Michael. Today he was accepting the position of first counselor. He would be in charge of everything, not just the town of Heartland, but all the towns and villages of Westland. That afternoon there was to be a ceremony and big celebration at Michael's house. Important people were going to be there. Richard was supposed to be there too. At least there would be plenty of good food. He realized he was famished. While he sat and thought, he scanned the opposite side of Trunt Lake. At the edge of the water, Hawker's trail knitted in and out of the trees. Richard had been on that trail many times. As the trail wound its way through the high ven forests, it passed uncomfortably close to the boundary. Because of that, most travelers avoided it. Richard was a woods guide and led travelers safely through the Heartland forests. His eyes locked on something. There was movement. He stared hard at the far side of the lake. When he saw it again, there was no doubt it was a person. Maybe it was his friend Chase. Who else but a boundary warden would be wandering around up here? He hopped down off the rock and took a few steps forward. The figure followed the path into the open, at the edge of the lake. It wasn't Chase. It was a woman in a dress. What woman would be walking around this far out in the ven forest in a dress? Richard watched her. She moved at the measured pace of an experienced traveler. Other movement snatched his attention. Richard's eyes searched the shade and shadows. Behind her there were others. 4 men in hooded forest cloaks following her. They moved with stealth from tree to rock to tree, looking, waiting, moving. Richard straightened, his eyes wide, his attention riveted. They were stalking her. Richard stood frozen, not knowing what to do. He crouched, his breathing rapid with fear. Richard knew there was a small cutoff from Hawker's trail somewhere ahead of the woman. Hurriedly, he tried to remember exactly where. An idea began to take shape. He sprang up and started running down the trail. If he could reach her before the men caught her, and before the cutoff, he could take her up the right fork and lead her to safety. Still winded from the earlier run, Richard panted, running down the trail as fast as he could go. Just before a sharp bend to the right, he came at last to the cutoff, almost missing it. He made a quick search for tracks to see if she had been there and taken the small path. There were none. He had beaten her here. He looked down at the bite on the back of his hand. It was red and throbbed painfully. His eyes fell on the young woman as she came around the bend in front of him. His breath caught for an instant. Her brown hair was full, lush, and long. She was tall, almost as tall as he, and about the same age. The dress she wore was like none he had ever seen, white, interrupted only by a small, tan leather waist pouch. She halted. Richard approached and stopped 3 strides away so as not to appear a threat. She stood still. Her green eyes came unafraid to his. The connection was so intense that it threatened to drain his sense of self. "I was up there on a hill above the lake. I saw you. There are some men following you." She betrayed no emotion. "How many?" 4. The color drained from her face. "Do you choose to help me?" Except for her color, her exquisite features gave no hint as to her emotions. Before his mind could form a thought, he heard himself say, "Yes." "What would you have us do?" "There's a small trail that turns off here. If we take it, and they stay on this one, we can be away." "And if they don't? If they follow our trail?" I'll hide our tracks. They won't follow. Look, there's no time. If they do, then what is your plan? Well, the small trail is narrow. They won't be able to surround us. Do you have a weapon? He answered by shaking his head no. She nodded. Let's be quick then. Richard concealed their tracks and motioned her to go first so he would be between her and the men. She didn't hesitate. It had been well over an hour since they had come out of the trees, climbing steadily upward. The farther from the boundary and the closer to town they got, the better he felt. His plan had worked. Seeing no sign that they were being followed, Richard wished they could stop, as his hand was throbbing, but she kept pushing on as if the men were right on their heels. The path crossed a sheer cliff face. The two of them advanced quickly. Richard turned and checked behind, still clear. As he turned back, she froze in mid-stride. In the trail ahead, that only a moment earlier had been empty, stood two of the men. Richard and the woman spun, prepared to run. From the rock above, two ropes dropped down, and the other two men plummeted to the path, landing on their feet. They blocked any retreat. Buckles and leather straps beneath their cloaks held an arsenal of weapons that glinted in the sunlight. Richard wheeled back to the first two. They calmly pushed their hoods back. Each had thick blonde hair and a thick neck. You may pass, boy. Our business is with a girl. The man appeared to be in charge. Richard leaned closer to her. I won't leave you. Relief washed over her face. Keep between them. Don't let them all come at me at once, she whispered. And be sure you aren't touching me when they come. He didn't understand, but gave a small nod of agreement. May the good spirits be with us, she said. Be on your way, boy. Last time offered. Richard tried to sound sure of himself. We will both be passing. Not this day. The leader pulled free a wicked-looking curved knife. The man to his side pulled a short sword. From behind, Richard could hear the ring of steel being drawn. He was paralyzed with fear. This was all happening too fast. They had no chance. None. The four charged in a frightening rush. The one with the short sword swung it high, coming at Richard. He could hear one of the men behind him grab the woman. And then, just before the man reached him, there was a hard impact to the air, like a clap of thunder with no sound. The violence of it made every joint in his body cry out in sharp pain. Dust lifted around them. The man with the sword felt the pain of it too, and his attention was diverted past Richard to the woman. As he came crashing forward, Richard fell back against the wall and with both feet hit the man square in the chest as hard as he could. It knocked him clear of the path, into mid-air. The man's eyes went wide as he dropped backward to the rocks below. To Richard's shock, he saw one of the other two men from behind falling through space too, his chest ripped and bloody. Before Richard could give it a thought, the leader with the curved knife charged past, intent on the woman. He hammered the heel of his free hand into the center of Richard's chest. The jolt knocked the wind out of him and flung him hard against the wall, smacking his head against the rock. Summoning strength he didn't know he had, Richard snatched the leader by his husky wrist and spun him around. The knife came around in an arc toward him. The blade flashed in the sunlight. There was a savage hunger in the man's blue eyes. Richard had never been so afraid in his life. In that instant, he knew he was about to die. Seemingly, from out of nowhere, the last man, with a short sword covered in gore, smashed into the leader, driving his sword through the other's gut, slamming the wind out of him. The collision was so fierce it carried both over the side of the cliff. The last man howled in a cry of rage that ended only when they met the boulders below. Richard stood stunned, staring over the edge. Reluctantly, he turned to the woman, afraid to look, terrified he would see her gashed open and lifeless. Instead, she was sitting on the ground, leaning against the cliff wall, unhurt. He slumped down beside her on rock, warm from the sun. He had a powerful headache from having his head whacked on the wall. He couldn't believe they were alive. It didn't seem possible. What was the thunder without sound, and the pain he felt when it had happened? She leaned her head back against the rock. I don't even know your name. I wanted to ask before, but I was afraid to talk. My name is Richard Cypher. There are not many who would have stood with me. You are a very rare person, Richard Cypher. To his intense displeasure, Richard felt his face flush. I am Kalen. My family name is Amnel. You too are a very rare person, Kalen Amnel. There are not many who would have stood as you did." She did not blush, but gave him another smile. Her eyes sparkled with it. It was a smile of sharing. Richard got to his feet. His head hurt, his hand hurt, and to top it off, he remembered he was hungry. Michael! He had forgotten about his brother's party. "When's the last time you had something to eat?" he asked. 2 days ago." "Then you must be even more hungry than I am. I'll take you to my brother." He peered over the edge of the cliff. "We'll have to tell him about the bodies. He'll know what to do. Calen, do you know who those men were?" "They are called a quad. They are like assassins. They are sent to kill. They kill people. I think that maybe the fewer people who know about me, the safer I will be." "Calen, where did the quad come from?" "They must have tracked me out of the Midlands and through the boundary." Richard's skin went cold. An anger deep within him awakened, and his secrets stirred. She had to be lying. No one could cross the boundary. No one. No one could go into or come out of the Midlands. The boundary had sealed it away since before he was born. The Midlands was a land of magic. Michael's house was a massive structure of white stone, set back quite a distance from the road. People in fine clothes strolled the lawns and gardens. Richard knew he must look a mess in his dirty, sweat-stained forest garb. Calen, on the other hand, didn't look so out of place. The unusual but striking dress she wore belied the fact that she, too, had just walked out of the woods. "Invitation, sir?" Invitation? Richard spun around and was met by a mischievous grin. It was his friend Chase. He clasped hands with the boundary warden in a warm greeting. Chase was a big man, clean-shaven. He wore a brace of knives to one side of his belt and a 6-bladed battle mace to the other. "Chase, this is my friend Calen. This is Del Branstone. Everyone calls him Chase. He's an old friend of mine. We're safe with him." He turned to Chase. "You can trust her, too." She looked at the big man and gave him a smile. Chase nodded once to her, the matter settled. Then his eyes scanned the crowd, lingering on various people, checking their interest in the three of them. He pulled them both away from the sunlit openness of the steps and into the shade. "Your brother called in all the boundary wardens to be his personal guards." "What? That doesn't make any sense. He has the Home Guard and the Army. What does he need a few boundary wardens for?" "What indeed? Could be he just wants us around for effect. People are afraid of the wardens. You've been away to the woods since your father was killed. Strange things have been going on, Richard. People coming and going in the night. Michael calls them concerned citizens. He's been talking some nonsense about plots against the government. He has the wardens all over the grounds." "Well, how do you know Michael isn't right? What with the father of the new first counselor being murdered and all?" "I know every little slime in Westland. There's no plot. And about your father's murder, I've twisted a few fingers. Twisted hard. No one knows a thing. First time I've ever chased anyone and not been able to get even a whiff. Speaking of slime, what have you been about? You look like one of my customers." "We were up in the High Ven. We were attacked by 4 men. Anyone I would know?" Richard shook his head. "So where did these 4 go after they jumped you?" "You know the trail across Blunt Cliff? They're on the rocks at the bottom. We're going to have a talk." "I'll have a look. And if you think there's a need, you two can stay at my place. You'll be safe enough there." "We better get in. Michael is sure to be missing me." Richard and Calen turned and melted into the crowd, entering the house. Calen laid a hand on his arm. "Richard, I'm sorry. I didn't know about your father. I'm sorry." He told Calen a little of what had happened. She listened sympathetically. Richard worked his way through the crowd to the food table and picked up cheese. Calen took the cheese when he handed it to her. "Richard, I am scared to death. If you hadn't been there today, you don't know what would have happened to me. What you did was enough to make a difference. It was enough to save us, but more will follow. I should not be with you. I don't want my being here to bring you to harm. It won't. I have a friend, Zed. He may be able to tell us what we can do to keep you safe. As soon as Michael gives his speech, we will go to my house. You can sit in front of the fire, and in the morning, I'll take you to Zed." Whispers rippled through the crowd as heads turned to the far side of the room. It was Michael. As Michael stepped up onto a platform, Richard realized why it had taken him so long. He had been waiting for the sunlight to fall on that spot so he could stand in the sunlight for all to see. Not only was he shorter than Richard, but heavier and softer. Standing there in the sunlight, Michael positively gleamed. Richard held up his hand to catch his attention. Michael smiled at his brother before shifting to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, today I accepted the position of First Counselor of Westland." A roar went up from the room. "The counselors from all of Westland selected me to lead us because I have the courage and vision to take us into a new era. I will not stand by while the Westland is put into peril by traitors. Concerned citizens have come forward to identify these cowards, these traitors. They are not the common criminals you might think, but respected men in high authority." Murmurs swept across the assembly. Richard was stunned. Could it be true? His brother hadn't gotten where he was by not knowing what was going on. "But that is past history," Michael continued. "We must look forward to a day when the boundary will no longer be there, for nothing lasts forever, does it?" Richard was eager to get home. Along with his knife and the other things he had forgotten, there was something else he had to have. His father had made him the keeper of a secret book, and had given Richard something to keep always, as proof that it was not stolen, but rescued for safekeeping. It was a triangular-shaped tooth, 3 fingers wide. Richard had strung a leather thong to it so he could wear it around his neck. As they neared the house, an uneasy feeling began to itch at him. Richard carefully led them up the rise, both scanning the woods as they went. At the top of the rise, they crouched behind a big pine and looked down on his house. Windows were broken and the door stood open. His possessions were scattered about on the ground. "It's been ransacked, just like my father's house. Richard, your father may have come home just like this. Maybe he went in just like you are about to, and they were waiting for him." "All right," he whispered, "but there's something inside I have to get." At the back of his house, he gently put his hand on the frame of the window and raised his head to look inside. Most of the glass was broken, and his bedroom was a mess. Below the window was the bedpost, and hanging from it were his pack and the leather thong with the tooth, right where he had left them. He started to reach through the window. There was a squeak from the front room, a squeak he knew well. It was the squeak his chair made. Soundlessly, he dropped back down. There could be no doubt. Someone was in the front room, sitting in his chair, waiting for him. Quickly, Richard reached inside and carefully lifted the pack and leather thong with the tooth off the bedpost. He lifted the pack through the window, being careful not to let it bump against any broken glass. Zed's house was too far to reach before dark, and the trail was too treacherous to travel at night, but they would keep moving. Coldly, Richard wondered if whoever was in his house could be the same person who had murdered his father. Even though he had not been allowed to see his father's body at his house, he had wanted to know how he was killed. Chase had told him, very gently, his father's belly had been cut open and his guts had been spread out all over the floor. How could anyone do that? Richard held back the boughs of the tree. "This is a wayward pine," he announced. "Friend to any traveler." It was dark inside. Kaelin held the boughs aside so he could see by the moonlight to strike steel to flint and start a fire. Kaelin sat herself down in front of the fire. "I never heard of wayward pines before. I am not used to staying in the woods when I travel, but they look like a wonderful place to sleep. When was the last time you slept?" 2 days ago, I think." "Why so long? It would be very unwise to sleep in the boundary." "The Midlands must be a dreadful place," he said. "There are many dangers in the Midlands. There are also many fantastic and magical things. It is a beautiful, wondrous place." "Kaelin, I don't understand. About the boundary, I mean. I don't even know what the boundary is, except it's meant to keep the lands separated so there will be peace." "Young people here are not taught the histories of the 3 lands?" "No. I always thought it odd because I wanted to know, but no one would ever tell me. Both my father and Zed lived in the Midlands before the boundary. They said that back before the boundaries was a terrible time. Well, it is a long story. If you want, I will tell you some of it. He nodded for her to go on. Long ago, back in the time before our parents were born, Dahara was just a confederation of kingdoms, as was the Midlands. The most ruthless of the Daharan rulers was Panis Rahl. As his legions were finally halted, Rahl turned to magic. Back then, there was magic everywhere. There were no boundaries. Anyway, Panis Rahl was ruthless in his use of magic against the free people. They wanted a place to live where there would be no magic. Westland was set aside for those people. So it was that there came to be 3 lands. The boundaries were created with the help of magic, but they themselves are not magic. The boundaries are part of the underworld, the dominion of the dead. No one can cross the boundary, no one can return from the dead. Then how did you? With magic. The boundary was brought here with magic, so the wizards reasoned they could get me safely through with the aid of magic. Richard sat spellbound. He didn't know anything about wizards or magic, but no one would send Kaelin through the boundary without a powerful reason. If I'm to help you stay ahead of the next quad, stay alive, he said, I need answers, and I don't think we have much time. I understand. Kaelin tossed a stick in the fire. He waited for her to go on with the story. After a few minutes, she did. At the beginning of last winter, the movement started. The Darken Rahl movement. It seemed to spring up out of nowhere, people calling him Father Rahl, calling him the greatest man of peace that ever lived. He is the son of Panis Rahl. Anyway, the People's Peace Army, Darken Rahl's army, marched right into the bigger cities. Instead of fighting him, crowds of Midlanders threw flowers at them. People who didn't were hung. So, have the Daharan forces conquered all of the Midlands? The Midlands is a big place. The People's Peace Army occupies only the larger cities. The wizards found out his real goal was the magic the Great Wizard had warned the Council about, the magic they had mishandled for their own avarice. With the magic Darken Rahl seeks, he will be master of all without having to fight anyone. 5 of the wizards realized they had been wrong, so they searched for the Great Wizard, but Rahl hunts him also. They believed him to be in Westland? Yes, he is here. And they thought this Great Wizard could stop Darken Rahl even though they could not? No, he does not have the power to go against Darken Rahl. What they wanted is for the Great Wizard to make the appointment only he can make. Why didn't they come after him themselves? Because they feared he would say no, and they did not have the power to force him. And so they sent me, because I do. How are you to know this wizard? I only know I must find him, and soon, or we are all lost. Zed will help us, Richard said. He's a cloud reader. Finding lost people is what a cloud reader does. By noon the next day, Richard knew the bite of the vine was bringing on a fever. There was nothing he could do about it except seek Zed's help. Zed's squat house came into sight a short distance farther up the trail. He pointed one scrawny finger skyward, his wavy white hair hanging from his head. I knew you were coming, Richard. Zed, we have company. Do you know how I knew you were coming? I would say it has something to do with a cloud that has been following me for the last few days. Days? Bags, Richard! That cloud has been following you for 3 weeks, ever since your father was killed. I haven't seen you since George's death. Where have you been? I've been busy. Busy? Bags, Richard! Why are you sweating? You have a fever. Zed, please listen to me. I'm in trouble, and I need your help. I always listen to you, Richard. He lifted Richard's arm by the wrist, feeling his pulse. And I agree. You are in trouble. In 3 hours, maybe 4, you will be unconscious. Richard was taken aback. Kaelin looked worried. Zed knew about fevers, among other things. Can you do anything to help? Richard asked. Probably, but it depends on what caused it. Now, stop being rude and introduce me to your girlfriend. Zed, this is my friend, Kaelin Amnel. Oh, was I wrong? She is not a girl, then? Zed shuffled to Kaelin, bowed dramatically, and said, Zedicus Zul Zoranda, humbly at your whim, my dear young lady. He straightened himself up to have a look at her face. When their eyes met, his smile evaporated. Zed spun to Richard.
What are you doing with this creature? Zed, has she touched you? Well, no, of course not. I can see she hasn't. Richard, do you know what she is? She's a...
Kalen gave Zed a look of such cold danger that it froze him in place. I know exactly what she is. She is my friend. We are both in a lot of trouble. Zed, we need your help. Please? Yesterday, after I found her, she was attacked by a quad. Zed looked to Kalen as if seeing her for the first time. At the mention of the quad, the look on Kalen's face became one of torment. Zed came forward and put his spindly arms around her.
It's all right, dear one. You are safe here. Let's go down to the house, and you can tell me of this trouble. And then we must tend to Richard's fever.
Near a back corner of the house sat a table where Zed liked to take his meals in good weather. Zed sat them down together on a bench. Richard told the whole story.
What did the vine look like?
Zed asked. It was... Wait, I still have it in my pocket. He took out the sprig and plunked it down on the table.
Bags! That's a snake vine!
Richard felt a shock of icy cold sweep through him. He knew the name from the secret book. Zed sat back.
Well, the good part is now I know the root to use to cure the fever. The bad part is I have to find it.
Zed asked Kalen to tell her part, but to make it short. Darken Rahl, son of Panis Rahl, has put the 3 boxes of Orden in play, Kalen said. I have come in search of the great wizard. Richard was thunderstruck. From the secret book, the book of counted shadows, the line jumped into his mind. And when the 3 boxes of Orden are put into play, the snake vine shall grow. Richard's worst nightmares were coming to pass. Pain and dizziness from the fever made Richard only dimly aware that his head had sunk to the table. Then Zed was at his side, lifting him, telling Kalen to help get him into the house. Darkness sucked his mind in. Then there was light. He seemed to float back up, only to spiral down again. Kalen was smoothing his hair. I am here. It came back to him, rushing back in a torrent. He remembered how his father had taken him to the secret place in the woods, and had told him how he had brought the Book of Counted Shadows with him to Westland to keep it from covetous hands. The only way to do that was to commit the book to memory and then burn it. His father chose Richard. His father told Richard he was not to tell his own brother or even his best friend, Zed. Richard swore on his life. When he assured his father that it was committed to memory, they built a fire. The flames swirled around the book, embracing, caressing, consuming. Colors and forms spiraled up, and a roaring cry came forth. Searing heat turned to wind as cold as the deepest winter night. The fire was out. The book was gone. Richard knew what he had seen. He had seen magic. Richard felt a hand resting on his shoulder and opened his eyes. It was Kalen. "Where's Zed?" he asked, sleepy-eyed. "He has gone to find the root you need. He said the drink he gave you would keep you safe." Richard realized, for the first time, that she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Richard slept on. Zed collected a bowl and cloth and called to Kalen to help. She came quickly, and he instructed her how to hold the cloth over the bowl while he poured the root mixture through. Zed and Kalen listened to Richard's deep breathing and the crackling of the fire. The house was still. It was Zed who broke the silence first.
"It is dangerous for a confessor to travel alone, dear one. Where is your wizard?"
"My wizard sold his services to a queen."
"He abandoned his responsibilities to the confessors? What is his name?"
"Giller."
"Giller! So, why did another not come with you?"
"Because they are all dead, at their own hands. Before they died, they all gathered and cast a web to see me safely through the boundary." Zed stood at this news. Concern etched his face. "You knew the wizards?" she asked.
Yes. I lived in the Midlands a long time."
"And the Great One? You know him also?"
"You are persistent, dear one. Yes, I knew the old wizard, once. But even if you could find him, I don't think he would be inclined to help the Midlands."
Kalen leaned forward, taking his hand in hers. "Zed, there are many people who disapprove of the High Council of the Midlands and its greed, but they are common people who have no say. They only wish to live their lives in peace. Darken Rahl has taken the food that was stored for the coming winter and given it to the army. Already there is hunger. Fire has been outlawed. People are cold. Rahl says it is all the great wizard's fault for not coming forward to be put on trial as an enemy of the people. He doesn't explain how this could be, but many believe it anyway. The wizards were under constant threat and forbidden by edict from using magic. As their most loving act for the people, they gave their lives to stop Darken Rahl. I think their teacher would have been proud. But this is not about just the Midlands. The boundary between Dahara and the Midlands is down. The boundary between the Midlands and Westland is failing, and soon it too will be down. The people of Westland will be taken by the very thing they fear most, magic. Terrible, frightening magic like none they have ever imagined. Zed showed no emotion. He continued to let her hold his hand. All I have said, the great wizard could have an argument for, but the fact that Darken Rahl has put the 3 boxes of Orden into play is something altogether different. If he succeeds, on the first day of winter it will be too late for anyone. That includes the wizard. Zed, Darken Rahl has used quads to kill all the other confessors. That leaves only me. The wizards knew their teacher did not want to help, so they sent me as the last hope. If he is too foolish to see that in helping us he helps himself, then I must use my power against him to make him help. Zed raised an eyebrow.
And what is one dried-up old wizard to do against the power of this Darken Rahl?
He must appoint a seeker.
What? Dear one, seekers appoint themselves. A seeker has to have the right qualities within himself. A true seeker is a rare person. Kaelin, you were born after the council took this power upon itself, so you have never seen the real thing. When a real seeker draws the sword of truth, righteous anger can be an extraordinary thing to behold. He is an obstacle to those who would subvert power, but against Darken Rahl, I doubt even a true seeker would last long. And then what?
Zed, we must try. It is our only chance. If we don't take it, we have none. He sat up.
Any person the wizard picks would not know the Midlands. He would have no chance there.
That is the other reason I was sent, to be his guide. I have been almost everywhere in the Midlands. Before Zed could answer, Richard moaned. The old man looked over at him and then rose.
It is time.
Kaelin stood next to him as he lifted Richard's arm by the wrist, holding the wounded hand. Zed held Richard's hand while Kaelin wrapped it.
When I first saw you, he said, I reacted foolishly, mostly to the surprise of seeing a confessor. I had not expected ever to see one again. I quit the Midlands to be free of the magic. I apologize. You are welcome in my house.
When Richard came out, Kaelin and Zed were sitting at the table. A big bowl of soup waited for him at the table, along with cheese and fresh bread.
How do you feel? Zed asked. How is your hand?
I'm fine. Thank you, Zed, for helping me. Thank you both. Richard decided it was time to get back to business. Zed, my friend, we need your help to stop Darken Rahl.
I know. You want me to find the wizard for you.
No, that won't be necessary. I have already found him. You are the great wizard.
And what makes you think this, Richard?
Your biggest mistake was when you told Kaelin she was safe here. You would not lie, and you know what a quad is. How could an old man make it safe here against a quad without magic? He couldn't. But one old wizard could. Zed leaned forward.
I have never before been this proud of you, Richard. You got it all right. I have also never been this sad for you. Sit. I will be right back. I have something for you. Both of you, sit and wait.
Zed cleared the table, then, holding the plates, strode to the house. When Zed reappeared, he was carrying something long. Kaelin came to her feet. Zed's fist clutched the scabbard of a sword. Kaelin put herself in front of him. Don't do this, Zed.
It is not my choice.
Zed, please, no. Choose someone else, not Richard.
Kaelin, I warned you about this. I told you he picks himself. If I choose someone other than the true one, we all die. If you have a better way, put words to it.
He came to the side of the table opposite Richard and slammed the sword down in front of him.
This belongs to you.
Richard's gaze fell upon the sword. The silver scabbard gleamed with gold flourishes. Steel crossguards swept out and down aggressively. It was the finest weapon Richard had ever seen. Slowly, he rose to his feet. Zed picked up the scabbard by the point and held the hilt of the sword to Richard. "Draw it." As if in a trance, Richard closed his fingers around the hilt and pulled the sword free, the blade making a ringing, metallic sound that hung in the air. Richard had never heard a sound quite like it. His hand closed tightly around the grip. The weight fit him exactly. From deep within, he felt his anger stir, brought to life. He was suddenly aware of the tooth against his chest. His anger fed on the force from the sword, and in return, the wrath from the sword fed on his anger. Together, the twin storms spiraled through him. Richard struggled to control the rage. Zedekis Zul Zorander threw his head back and spread his arms. To the sky he called out, "Fair warning to those living and those dead! The Seeker is named!" Thunder from the blue sky shook the ground and rolled off toward the boundary. Kaelin fell to her knees in front of Richard, head bowed, hands held behind her back. "I pledge my life in the defense of the Seeker." Zed knelt beside her, his head bowed. "I pledge my life in the defense of the Seeker." Richard stood gripping the sword of truth in his hand, eyes wide in breathless bewilderment. "Zed," he whispered, "what in the name of everything good is a Seeker?" "What is a Seeker?" A wise first question in your new capacity, but not one swiftly answered. The naming of the Seeker is a wizard's task. The sword belongs to the Seeker as long as he chooses to be Seeker. In between, the sword belongs to the wizards, or more precisely to me. The last fellow who had it became entangled with a witchwoman. So I went into the Midlands and retrieved what is mine. Now it is yours." Richard looked to Kaelin. "This is what you came here for?" "I wanted the wizard to name a Seeker. I did not know it would be you." "You two think I can somehow stop Darken Rahl? A wizard can't do it, but I'm to try?" Zed came and put a reassuring arm around his shoulder. "Come, sit, and I will tell you what you need to know. Then you decide for yourself." "There is a magic," he began, "an ancient and dangerous magic of immense power. It is held in 3 vessels called the 3 Boxes of Orden. The magic is dormant until the boxes are put into play. To do so is not easy. If the person who puts them in play fails to acquire all 3 and to open one within the allotted time of 1 year, he forfeits his life to the magic. There is no going back. Darken Rahl must open one of the boxes or die. On the first day of winter, his year is up. Each box holds a different power, released upon its opening. If Rahl opens the correct one, he gains the magic of Orden, power over all things living and dead. Anyone he doesn't like, he will be able to kill with a thought." "And if he opens one of the others?" Richard asked. "Open the wrong box, and the magic claims him. He's dead. We are all safe. Open the other wrong box, and every living thing is incinerated into nothingness." "How will Rahl know which box to open?" "Putting the boxes in play imparts privileged information. It must be that this information tells him how he can discover which box is which." A sudden jolt went through Richard. Darken Rahl must be after him for the book. He almost didn't hear Zed beginning to speak again.
This is the end of Side 1. This program is continued on Side 2 of this cassette.
Putting the boxes in play imparts privileged information. It must be that this information tells him how he can discover which box is which.
A sudden jolt went through Richard. Darken Rahl must be after him for the book. He almost didn't hear Zed beginning to speak again.
Rahl has done something out of the ordinary, though. He has put the boxes in play before he has all 3.
Richard came to attention immediately. He must be stupid, or very confident.
Confident. Rahl has at least 1, but not all 3. Do you see, Richard? We don't have to go up against Darken Rahl. We have only to find at least 1 of the boxes before he does.
You still have not told me what a Seeker is, or my part in this.
A Seeker is a person who answers to no one but himself. he is a law unto himself. The sword of truth is his to wield as he wishes, and within the limits of his own strength he can hold anyone to answer for anything. A seeker is the standard-bearer of justice. I don't pick a seeker, Richard. A true seeker picks himself. I only name them. You have been a seeker for years without knowing it. You are always seeking the truth. Right now, there are answers you must find.
What answers?
I have a plan, Zed smiled. But you must first find a way to get us across the boundary.
You're a wizard. You send us through the boundary.
No, I said across the boundary. I know how to go through it, but we can't do that. Rahl waits for us to do so. We must instead go across it without going through it. There is a big difference.
Zed, I don't think I'm qualified to be seeker. I don't know anything about the Midlands. I'd be lost there. Kaelin put her hand on his forearm. No, you wouldn't. I know the Midlands better than almost anyone. I'll be your guide. Zed's eyes were somber.
Darken Rahl hunts you, personally. The only reason I can fathom is that he too knows you to be the one. Kaelin, tell Richard how Darken Rahl questions people.
Zed, please.
Tell him what he does with the curved knife he keeps at his belt.
Darken Rahl is a practitioner of an ancient form of magic called anthropomancy. He divines the answers to questions by the inspection of living human entrails. Richard felt his anger ignite. Richard, please forgive me for telling you this. Memories of his father's kindness, his love, tore through him. In his mind he added the shadowed figure of Darken Rahl, hands dripping crimson blood, standing over his father's body, holding the red, glinting blade. The picture was complete now. He knew how his father had died. Richard reached out to the sword of truth, curled his fingers around the scabbard. The heat of anger surged forth from the sword, summoned by the seeker. In that instant, his only want was to kill Darken Rahl, nothing else. I accept the position of seeker.
Richard, Zed said, it's all right. Relax. Sit down.
The sword has magic, Richard said. I felt it.
It does. But, Richard, magic is only a tool. Now, I have to tell you something you are not going to like. You cannot use the sword of truth on Darken Rahl. The magic of Orden protects him during his year of search. If you try to use the sword, you will be dead before it reaches him.
This is crazy. First you want me to be the seeker and take the sword. Now you tell me I can't use it? Zed, I agree with Richard, said Kaelin. This makes it impossible. If he cannot use his most important weapon, then... Zed cut her off.
No, this! He rapped Richard on the head with his knuckles. This is a seeker's most important weapon.
He jabbed his long finger at the center of Richard's chest.
And this, the seeker, is the weapon. The sword is just a tool. You can find another way. You must. I'm sorry, my boy. I wish I could change the magic, but
It's all right, my friend. You're right. We must stop Rahl. That's all that matters. I have to know the truth to succeed, and you have given me the truth. Richard was trying to think of solutions. Cross the boundary, he thought. Cross the boundary without going through it. How? What if it was impossible? Something in the back of his mind nagged at him, insisting that it could be done. Then it struck him like a bolt of lightning. The book. There was a pass across the boundary. His father had found it and used it. That was the only way the Book of Counted Shadows could have been in Westland. The book had magic. Magic could only be brought into Westland after the boundary was up. Richard turned back to the other two. We will have supper. We'll get our provisions together and pack tonight. We leave at first light. Zed held up an arm.
Where are we headed, my boy?
The Midlands. Shadows in the moonlight swept back and forth across the heavy oak door. Kaelin and Zed didn't want to climb the spiked fence, so Richard left them on the other side. He was just starting to knock on the door when a knife pressed against his throat. He froze. "Chase?" he whispered.
"Richard, what are you doing? You know better than to sneak up to my place."
"I wasn't sneaking. I didn't want to wake the whole house. Chase, go unlock your gate. Kaelin and Zed are waiting out there. We need you." Emma, Chase's wife, was a kind woman. She brought out a pot of tea and a jar of honey, then passed around mugs. Richard looked up. "Emma, could you do me a favor? Do you have any traveling clothes Kaylin could borrow?" "Well, her shoulders are too big for my clothes, and her legs are too long, but the older girls have things I think would work nicely. Come, dear, let's see what we can find." As they left the room, Emma knowingly shut the door. Chase took a sip of tea.
Well?
"Well, you know the conspiracy my brother was talking about? It's worse than he knows." Richard pulled the sword of truth from its scabbard and laid it on the table between them. The polished blade gleamed. Chase inspected it, running his fingers over the word truth on the hilt.
Not unusual for a sword to be named, but typically the name is engraved on the blade.
"Chase, you've seen this sword before," Richard admonished. "You know what it is."
I have, but I've never seen it this close. The point is, Richard, what are you doing with it?
"It was given to me by a great and noble wizard." Chase looked to Zed.
What's your part in this?
I'm the one who gave it to him."
The spirits be praised. A real seeker. At last.
"We don't have much time," Richard said. "I need to know some things about the boundary."
Richard, do you know what my job is?
"Keeping people away from the boundary, for their own good."
Most people don't understand the boundary, or what we do. The wardens have all seen things that have gotten loose. We understand. Ultimately, there is only one whose orders we will follow, because our cause is a part of his larger cause. That one is the true seeker.
He picked up the sword in his big hands and held it out to Richard.
I pledge my life and loyalty to the seeker.
"Thank you, Chase. Now we'll tell you what's been going on, and then I'll tell you what I want." Richard and Zed both shared in the telling of all that had happened. The door opened, and Kaylin and Emma stepped into the light. Kaylin was outfitted in fine forest garb. Emma saw the sword, and by her expression, Richard knew she understood.
"What can I do to help you, Richard?"
Chase asked. "Tell me where the pass is."
"Who told you of the pass?"
"Chase, answer the question."
"One condition. The boundary is my responsibility. If you want me to tell you, then I'm going."
Everyone waited while Richard considered this. He had no choice. "Chase, we would be honored to have you with us."
"Good. The pass is called the King's Port. It's in a foul place called South Haven. 4, maybe 5 days' ride on horseback, if we take Hawker's Trail. It will be light in a few hours. The 3 of you need to get some sleep. Emma and I will get the provisions together."
The small company, Chase leading, settled into a comfortable pace through the Heartland woods. Chase stopped, watching off into the shadows. The rest of them waited, looking toward the boundary. Chase got off his horse. "Wait," he said. They watched him disappear into the trees. Chase returned. "I want you to keep going. Don't wait for me, and don't stop. Keep to the road." The 3 rode on through the boundary woods. Off in the distance came howling, like a wolf pack, only it wasn't wolves. It was something from the boundary. The 3 jerked their heads toward the sound. The horses were terrified and wanted to run. They had to keep reining in. Unable to stand it any longer, Richard pulled his horse to a halt and faced the woods. Chase was out there alone with the beasts. He had to help. Zed turned.
"We have to keep moving, Richard."
"He may be in trouble. We can't let him do this alone."
"It's his job. Let him do it. He's sworn to protect you with his life."
Richard tried to ignore the shrieks and howls off in the woods. After a while, he realized the howls had stopped. He wondered if that was a good sign or not. After about an hour, he caught the sound of something coming through the brush in the distance. Whatever it was staying with them. He saw the black form moving against the barely discernible shapes of the trees. He raised the sword and went for it. At the last instant, he realized it was Chase, holding up an arm to halt him. Kaylin and Zed caught up with them. Richard sheathed his sword. What was that all about?
"Things in the boundary are following us. I took us away from the boundary now because I wanted to get our scent away from them."
They set up camp on a high hill. Chase and Zed tended to the horses while Richard and Kaylin started the fire and began cooking a simple stew. When the other 2, back from tending the horses, came into the firelight, Richard could see that the mace hanging from Chase's belt was covered in blood. "Chase, what were those creatures that were after us? And how could anything go in and out of the boundary?" They're called heart hounds. They're about twice the size of a wolf. Big snout full of teeth. Fierce. I'm not sure what color they are. They only prowl at night. Until today. Bumps ran up Richard's arms. What about the way they can go in and out of the boundary? They have something to do with the magic of the boundary. They were created with it. Tomorrow, in the daylight when it's safer, I'll show you the boundary, how it's weakening.
They are tan, Galen said. Hearthounds are tan.
They are seen everywhere now in the Midlands, having been released from their bonds when the other boundary failed. Crazed with lack of purpose, they even come out in the daytime. The three men sat motionless, considering her words.
Great, Richard said. And what else does the Midlands have that is even worse?
Kaelin's eyes were far away.
Darken Rahl, she whispered.
Richard sat away from the camp. Chase had given him the first watch. Moonlight illuminated the open land between where he sat and the boundary. Unexpectedly, Kaelin slipped up silently in the darkness and wedged herself tight against him for warmth. She didn't talk, simply sat close. He didn't want her to move.
The others asleep? He asked. She nodded. Aren't you sleepy? She shrugged.
Kaelin, do you have someone? Someone who waits for you, I mean, a love?
It is not that simple, Richard.
Yes, it is. Either you do or you don't.
I have obligations.
For a time, it seemed she was going to tell him something, tell him her secret. He desperately wanted to taste her soft lips, but he was inexplicably getting a strong feeling of warning, stronger than his desire to kiss her. The horses picked their way carefully among the tangle. Warm air, heavy with humidity, carried the fetid smell of decay. Chase led the way. They were in the middle of an endless, dead, dried-up bog. "The boundary," Chase announced.
"I don't see anything," Richard said.
"Watch." Chase walked on, steadily, slowly. As he went forward, a green glow formed around him. It was like green glass, wavy and distorted, but Richard could see through it, see the dead trees beyond. Chase stopped and returned. The green sheet and then the green glow faded and vanished as he came back. "That's it?" Richard asked. "What more do you want?" "We have to get to Scow Swamp before nightfall, before the Hearthounds come out. It's the only safe place between here and Southaven. The next day we will go see a friend of mine, Addie, the Bone Woman. She lives near the pass. We need her help to get through. But tonight, our only chance is the swamp." Richard was about to ask what a Bone Woman was, and why they needed her help, when a dark, shadowy form suddenly whipped out of the air, striking Chase so hard it threw him across several downed trees. With shocking speed, the black form wrapped around Kaelin's legs, whip-like, pulling her feet from under her. She screamed Richard's name as he dove, grabbing for her. They locked their hands around each other's wrists. Both were dragged across the ground toward the boundary. Zed's fingers threw fire over their heads. It shrieked past and vanished. Another black appendage struck out at the wizard with lightning speed, knocking the old man through the air. Richard hooked a foot around a branch on a log. Rotten, it tore from the stump. "Put your arms around my waist!" he yelled. Kaelin lunged, throwing her arms around him, holding tight. The sinuous black thing wrapped around her legs, undulated, getting a stronger grip on her. She screamed as it squeezed. Richard yanked the sword free, filling the air with its ringing. The green light began to glow around them as they were dragged in. Anger flooded through Richard. Something was trying to take Kaelin. The green light brightened. Being hauled across the ground, he couldn't reach the thing that pulled them. Kaelin held him hard by the waist. "Kaelin, let go of me!" She was too terrified to do it. She clutched him tightly, desperately, panting in pain. The green sheet came up as they were dragged in. "Let go!" he yelled. He tried to pry her hands from his waist. The trees of the bog started to fade into darkness. Richard could feel the pressure of the wall. He couldn't believe how strongly she held him. Their only chance was for him to get up. "Kaelin, you have to let go or we're dead! I won't let them get you, trust me! Let go!" Kaelin looked up at him, her face contorting in pain as the black thing squeezed. She screamed, then let go. In a blink, Richard was on his feet. A dark wall materialized. Kaelin's feet were at the wall, the dark thing enfolded tightly around her legs, pulling. He brought the sword up. Murderous need surged through him.
He gave himself over completely to the hot need and brought the sword down as hard as he could. It swept through the wall, slashed through the repulsive thing that held Kaelin. There was a confusion of flashes, unearthly wailing and keening. Kaelin's legs were free. She lay sprawled on her stomach. Without looking to see what else was happening, Richard pushed his arm under her waist and lifted her. He held the sword toward the wall as he retreated from the boundary. Backing away steadily, they left the green light. He kept going until they were well clear, beyond the horses. When he released her, Kaelin threw her arms around him, shaking.
"The others, where are they?" she asked. "We have to find them."
Kaelin pushed away from him and started to run back. Richard snatched her by the wrist. "Stay here!" he yelled, pushing her to the ground. Richard found Zed in a heap, unconscious. Richard picked up Zed and carried him to Kaelin, where he laid him gently on the ground. She held the wizard's head in her lap, inspecting for wounds. Richard ducked low as he ran back, but the expected attack didn't come. He found Chase jammed part way under a log. Richard pulled him over. Blood oozed from a gash on the side of Chase's head. Debris was stuck to the wound. Kaelin's face was white with worry.
"What are we going to do?"
"Chase said we had to get to the swamp, or the hounds would get us. Let's tie them down on the horses so they don't fall off, and get to the swamp."
The woods were deserted. They rode the horses hard the rest of the afternoon and evening. They still had not reached the swamp. Off through the tangled woods, they caught the sound of howling. The Heart-hounds were coming. The horses needed no encouragement to run. The road curved back and forth as it threaded its way around misshapen oaks and rock outcroppings. Dead trees became more infrequent. They came to the Scow Swamp at last. When she gently shook him awake, it was morning. Weak, gray light filtered through the dark green of the swamp.
"The Heart-hounds are gone," she said. "When it got light, they suddenly went off in a rush."
"Any change in Zed or Chase?" he asked.
"Zed's breathing is slower."
Richard quickly went and checked. Zed seemed hardly alive.
"We had better get going and see if we can find them some help," he said.
Before night, they reached South Haven. At a ramshackle inn, they asked the proprietor if there was a healer in town.
"No," he said, "but there's someone who may be able to help, a woman named Addie. They call her the Bone Woman. Most people are afraid of her."
"Why?"
"Because they're superstitious, and because she lives near the boundary. They say that people she doesn't like have a bad habit of dropping dead. She's not a healer, but I know of folks she's helped. She may be able to help your friends."
Richard remembered Chase saying Addie was his friend. Following the innkeeper's directions, they found Addie's house in the forest. The whole place felt somehow sacred. The house so blended with its surroundings, it was almost invisible. In front of the old house stood a tall woman. Age had not stolen the handsome features of her weathered face. Richard brought the horses to a slow halt in front of her. The woman's eyes were completely white.
"I be Addie. Who be you?"
"I am Richard Cypher. This is my friend, Kaelin Amnell." She turned to Kaelin. The woman spoke to Kaelin in a language he couldn't understand. Kaelin gave the woman a slight bow of her head. It had been a greeting of deference. Kaelin had been addressed by title. Addie turned back to Richard. The woman studied his face with her white eyes. He had no idea if she could see. He didn't know how it could be possible.
"Put words to your need, Richard Cypher."
"We need your help. Our two friends are hurt. One, Del Branstone, told me he is your friend."
"True."
"Another man in South Haven told us you may be able to help them."
"Bring your friends inside."
As soon as they lugged Chase through the door, Richard discovered why she was called the Bone Woman. Bones of every kind stood out in stark relief against the dark walls. Against one were shelves that held skulls of beasts Richard didn't recognize. At least none were human, he thought. They set Chase down. Then Richard got Zed and gently laid him at the Bone Woman's feet.
"Who be this one?"
"Zedicus Zul Zorander, my friend."
"Wizard!"
"My friend." Addie calmly looked at him with her white eyes while he glared back. Zed was going to die if he didn't get help, and Richard was in no mood to allow that to happen.
Addie leaned forward, placing her wrinkled hand flat against his stomach. Surprised, he stood still while she rubbed her hand in a slow circle. Her thin lips pulled to the sides in a slight smile as she looked up.
The righteous rage of a true seeker. Good.
Now, what about these two?
Be at ease. They have been receiving help from the moment you brought them in. They be struck down by underworld beasts. It will take time for them to wake. Days. How many I cannot say. But they be dry. Go to the corner. Bring the water bucket.
Richard retrieved the water, and Addie chanted over Zed and Chase, using bone implements with strange symbols carved into them. When finished, she looked up at Richard.
Can you cook?
I would be honored to make you some spice soup, he said.
That would be wonderful. I have not had a proper spice soup in years.
Richard went to the opposite corner of the room and sat at the table, cutting up vegetables and mixing spices. For over an hour, as he worked, he watched the two women sitting on the floor, talking in the strange language. They seemed to be enjoying themselves, so he went outside to chop wood for Addie. Then he returned.
You have given me a wonderful gift, Addie said. You have given me time to talk to Kaelin in my native tongue. You cannot know what joy that be. You are very perceptive. You are a true seeker.
Richard beamed at her. You have given me something very precious, too. The lives of my friends. Thank you, Addie.
And your spice soup be wonderful. Kaelin has told me about Darken Rahl and about the boundary failing. It explains much. She has told me that you know of the pass and wish to cross into the Midlands. You must decide what you will do. Your friends must be awakened every day to drink, and they must be fed gruel. They be asleep for many days, 5, maybe 10. You must decide, as seeker, if you are to wait for them or go on.
That would be a lot of work for you to do by yourself.
Yes, but it not be as much work as going after the boxes.
Every day that passes, he said, brings Rahl closer to the last box. We can't wait. How do we find the pass? He asked.
You already have. You be in the pass. The mouth of it, anyway. Listen carefully. You cannot take your horses. The trail be too small, and you must not stop to sleep. It will take 1 day, 1 night, and most of the next day to cross. One more thing.
They followed slowly as she worked her way to the shelves. Her slender fingers clutched a leather pouch. She loosened the drawstring and dumped something in her palm. She turned to Richard.
Hold out your hand.
He held his palm up. She put her hand over his, and he felt a weight. In his palm rested a rock about the size of a grouse egg. Smooth and polished, it was so dark it seemed as if it could suck the light from the room.
This be a night stone. When it be dark, and you have need enough, take out the night stone, and it will give off light so you may find your way. I will tell the wizard you have it. He has magic to find it, so he will be able to find you. Strength to the seeker, Addie said. And you too, child. Grim times lie ahead.
The trail was wide enough to allow Richard and Kaelin to walk side by side after they left Addie's place. Clouds hung thick and threatening, but the rain held off. Both wrapped their cloaks tight. The trail, climbing sharply in places, forced them to go single file. Richard wondered what they were going to do once they reached the Midlands. He had depended on Zed to let him know the plan, and now they were without Zed. He felt kind of foolish to be charging into the Midlands. What was he going to do once they crossed over? Torches set in ornate gold brackets lit the walls of the crypt with flickering light, reflected off the polished pink granite of the huge vaulted room. A large staff saw to it that no torch was allowed to go spent for longer than a few moments. The staff was attentive and devoted to their tasks. Failure to be so resulted in an immediate beheading. Staff positions were filled from the surrounding Daharan countryside. Being a member of the crypt staff was an honor, by law. The master, on the evenings when he was at home in the people's palace, would visit the tomb. No staff or tomb guards were allowed to be present during these visits. A short, pillar in the center of the immense room supported the coffin itself, giving it the effect of floating in the air. The gold and shrouded coffin glowed in the torchlight. Carved symbols covered its sides and continued in a ring around the room, cut into the granite beneath the torches and gold vases. Instructions in an ancient language from a father to a son on the process of going to the underworld and returning. Instructions in an ancient language understood by only a handful. None but the son lived in Dahara. All the others in Dahara who understood had long ago been put to death. The crypt staff and guards had been sent away. The master was visiting his father's tomb. Darken Rahl ran his delicate fingers over the carved symbols on his father's tomb. An immaculate white robe, its only decoration gold embroidery in a narrow band around the neck and down the front, covered his lean frame to within an inch of the floor. Fine, straight, blonde hair hung almost to his shoulders. His eyes were a painfully handsome shade of blue. His features set off his eyes perfectly. Darken Rahl spoke the words silently in his mind as his fingers traced the symbols. He enjoyed reliving the thrill of the passage, of hanging between life and death. He savored going into the underworld, commanding the dead. He was impatient for the next journey. Footsteps echoed at someone's approach. Darken Rahl showed no concern or interest, but his guards did. They drew their swords. No one was allowed to come into the crypt with the master. No one but Demon Nas, that is. Demon Nas, the right hand of Rahl, the lightning of the master's dark thoughts, was a man as big as those he commanded. He strode in, ignoring the guards. Darken Rahl stood absorbed in the reading of the symbols. Demon Nas stood at ease, waiting for the master to finish. At last, Darken Rahl turned. Demon gave a respectful bow of his head. "Lord Rahl?"
"Demon, my old friend, how good to see you again."
"Lord Rahl, Queen Milena has delivered her list of demands."
Darken Rahl stared through the commander. "Have you brought me a boy?" Rahl asked expectantly.
"Yes, Lord Rahl. He awaits you in the Garden of Life."
"Good, good. And he is not too old. He is still a boy."
"Yes, Lord Rahl. He is but a boy."
Darken Rahl's smile widened. "You are sure, Demon? Did you take off his pants yourself and check?"
"Yes, Lord Rahl."
"You didn't touch him, did you? He must be unsoiled."
"No, Lord Rahl. I would not touch your spirit guide. You have forbidden it."
Darken Rahl took a step closer. "I know you wanted to, Demon. Was it hard for you? Looking but not touching? Your weakness has caused me trouble before."
"I took care of that," Demon protested. "I had that traitor, Brophy, arrested for the murder of that boy."
"Yes, and then he submitted to a confessor to prove his innocence."
"How was I to know he would do that? Who could expect a man would willingly do that?"
"You should have been more careful. You should have taken the confessors into account. And is that job finished yet?"
"All but one. The squad that went after Kalen, the mother confessor, failed. I had to send another."
Darken Rahl frowned. "Confessor Kalen is the one who took the confession of this traitor Brophy and found him innocent, is she not?"
Demon nodded slowly. "She must have found help, or the squad would not have failed."
Rahl remained silent, watching the other. At last, Demon broke the silence.
"Lord Rahl, what of Queen Milena's demands?"
"Tell her I agree to all her demands in return for the box."
"Lord Rahl, I do not understand why you play this game with the Queen. It is humiliating to be issued a list of demands. With no trouble we could crush her like the fat toad she is. Just give me the word. Allow me to issue my own demands on your behalf. She will be made to regret not bowing down to you as she should have."
Rahl smiled a small, private smile. "She has a wizard, Demon."
"I know. Giller. You have only to ask, Lord Rahl, and I will bring you his head."
"Demon, why do you think Queen Milena would enlist a wizard in her service? To protect the box, that is why. For now, the easiest path is to go along with her. If she gives me any trouble, I will deal with her and the wizard.
And anyway, once I have the last box, her demands will be meaningless. But there is another reason, my friend. Demon, do you kill your little boyfriends before or after? After? And why after? Why not before? I like it when they squirm. That is the other reason, my friend. I, too, enjoy it when they squirm, so to speak. I want to enjoy watching her squirm before I kill her. I will tell Queen Melenis that Father Rahl has graciously agreed to her terms. Very good, my friend. Now, show me what manner of boy you have brought me. Both wearing smiles, they strode toward the door. They went down long corridors of polished granite lit by torches, up spiral stairs of white stone, down more corridors. They came to a pair of doors with a scene of forests carved in relief. Demon pulled on the iron rings, and the heavy doors opened silently. Beyond was a room of dark brown oak panels. It gleamed in the light of the candles and lamps set about on heavy tables. The guards followed at a distance, watching everywhere, alert but silent, the master's shadows. Logs crackled and popped as flames wavered in a brick hearth. Darken Rahl stopped suddenly in mid-stride, his robes made pink in the firelight. "Again," he whispered, "again she comes to the boundary, to the underworld." "Who?" Demon asked. "The Mother Confessor, Kaelin. She has the help of a wizard, you know." "Gilla is with the Queen," Demon insisted, "not with the Mother Confessor." "Not Gilla. The Old One. The one I seek. The one who killed my father. She has found him. That is why she went to Westland, you know. She has done me a great favor, my friend. She has flushed out the wizard. It is fortunate she slipped past the ones in the underworld. Fate is truly on our side. Just because one quad failed, that does not mean she has found the wizard. Quads have failed before." "The Old One has named a seeker," Rahl whispered. "Are you sure?" Rahl nodded. "I almost had them. Almost had all three. But I was distracted by other matters, and they slipped away. For the time being. The second quad will fail, too, you know. They will not be expecting to encounter a wizard." "Then I will send a third quad, and I will tell them of the wizard," Demon promised. No, not yet. For now, let's wait and see what happens. Maybe she is meant to help me again." "Is she attractive, the Mother Confessor?" Demon scowled. "I have never seen her, but some of my men have. They fought over who would be named to the quads, who would have her." "Don't send another quad for now," Darken Rahl smiled. "It is time I had an heir. I will have her for myself. The two of them are dangerous, the wizard and the Mother Confessor. They could cause us trouble. Confessors subvert the word of Rahl. They are annoyance. I think we should do as you first planned. We should kill her." Rahl gave a wave of his hand. "You worry too much, Demon. I will kill her myself if she proves troublesome, but after she bears me a son. A confessor son. The wizard cannot harm me as he did my father. I will see him squirm, and then I will kill him. Slowly." "And the seeker?" Demon's face was hard with apprehension. Rahl shrugged. "Even less than an annoyance." "Lord Rahl, I need not remind you winter approaches." "The Queen has the last box. I will have it soon enough. There is no need for concern." Demon leaned closer. "And the book?" "After I have traveled to the underworld, I will search out the Cypher boy again. Worry yourself of it no more, my friend. Fate is on our side." Green light glowed all about as they cautiously shuffled their feet through the rubble of the hillside, climbing over or under tree trunks. Blackness lay thick all about, except for the uncanny illumination. "Let the walls of the boundary show us the way,"
Richard had said, his voice echoing back from the blackness. "Go slow. If one wall turns dark, don't take another step. Go a little more to the other side. That way we can stay between them and get through the pass." Kaelin had not hesitated, the shadows being a sure death. She had taken Richard's hand as they had stepped back into the green glow. "Richard, we have to get out of here. There are beasts about." They decided to run, to get clear of the pass as soon as possible. Before dark, Richard and Kaelin came to the edge of a long ridge. Below, the trail descended in a series of switchbacks. "I know this place," Kaelin whispered. "I am returned home. Welcome to the Midlands. You have done as you said you would. You got us here. Now the hard work begins. What would you have us do?" "We need someone with magic who can tell us where the last box is. Who do you know like that?" "The Mud People? But there's no guarantee they will agree to help us." "Do you know how we can get them to help us?" "The Mud People hold a gathering called a Council of Seers. This group divines answers to questions that affect the village. They will not hold a gathering at Sword Point. If they are to help us, they must do so willingly. You must win them over." The Mud People were pleased to see Kaelin, and it turned out they knew of Darken Rahl and the threat he posed. Richard quickly impressed them, and, after a brief stay, a council of seers was called. Richard and Kaelin were informed that 2 boxes had been put into play. "Can you tell me who knows where the last box is?" Richard asked the seer called the Birdman. "We know the name of the person who has the box, but we cannot tell you, because that would be the same as telling you where it is. That is forbidden." "Then, can you tell me the name of a person who is not near it, but who knows where it is?" "There is one we can name. She knows where the box is." When they uttered the name, Kaelin froze. "We are as good as dead," she said. "It is the witchwoman, Shota." They had traveled 3 days across the plains, and they had spent the past week climbing up into the high country.
"Well, there you 2 are,"
a voice called out. They both jumped. Richard sprang to his feet with his hand on the sword. Kaelin was in a half-crouch, ready for anything.
"Sit, sit. I didn't mean to give you a fright. It's just old John. My old friend the wizard sent me looking for you."
"Zed," Richard said. "Zed sent you?"
"How many old wizards do you know, my boy?" "Of course, Zed. He had important business to attend to, but he needs you now, so he asked me if I'd go get you. He told me where I'd find you. Looks like he was right, as usual."
"Well, how is he? Where is he? What's he want us for?"
"He's just fine. Thing is, I don't know why he wants you. When Zed's in a fret, you don't ask questions, you just do as he asks."
Richard grinned, then snatched up his pack. Kaelin gave him one of her special smiles as they followed old John up a rocky trail. She had told him that they weren't far from the witchwoman. After a couple of hours, the 3 came to a fork in the trail. Old John took to the right and kept going. Richard stopped, uncertain about something. Kaelin heard him and turned. "Which way to the woman?" he asked. "Left," Kaelin answered, relieved because the old man had gone right. Old John stopped.
"You 2 coming?"
Richard looked down the left trail. They had to get the last box before Rahl did. That was his first duty. "Do you think Zed could wait?"
"Don't know, but he wouldn't have sent me if it wasn't important. It's up to you, my boy. Zed is this way."
Kaelin said nothing, but he knew what she was thinking. She would rather not go near Shota. It made more sense to go after Zed. "You're right," he said to her. "I said nothing." "I could hear you thinking. We'll go with old John." Richard let Kaelin walk ahead of him. Something nagged at him. Something was wrong. He ignored the feeling that there were eyes watching him. He turned his attention back to old John. Breathing faster, he glanced down at the footprints Kaelin made. There were none from old John. Richard's left hand shot forward, seized Kaelin's shirt, and yanked her behind him. His right hand pulled the sword free. Old John stopped at the sound of the sword's ringing. "What is it, my boy? See something?" Richard gripped the sword in both hands. "How is it that you don't leave footprints?" Old John gave a sly smile.
"Did you not expect that an old friend of a wizard would have special talents?"
Maybe. But tell me, old John, what is your old friend's name? Why, it's Zed. How else would I know if he weren't my old friend? I'm the one who foolishly told you his name. Now, you tell me your old friend's last name. With a sudden roar, the old man turned. In the time it took to complete the turn, he mushroomed to twice the size. An impossible nightmare came to life. Fur and claws and fangs where an old man had been an instant before. Richard gasped as he looked up at the gaping maw of the beast. All at once it came for him. Richard tripped on a root, falling backward, sprawling across the ground. Instinctively he brought the sword up. Sharp, wet teeth reached over the sword, snapping viciously at his face. He drove the sword up, but the beast turned and swiftly slipped into the trees. Richard called out Kalen's name. She didn't answer. Before he could scramble fully to his feet, something ashen, with long arms, leapt on him, knocking him back again. Bloodless white lips curled back, exposing sharp teeth as it howled. Bulging yellow eyes snatched glances at him. "My sword!" it snarled. Gimme my sword!" Locked desperately together, the two of them rolled across the ground, leaves and sticks flying. Richard desperately reached to his belt and pulled his knife. In a rush, he had it to the folds of the thing's neck. "Please!" it howled. "No kill! No kill!" "Then let go of the sword! Now!" The thing slowly, reluctantly released its grip. Richard untangled himself from the disgusting creature. He put the point of the sword hard against its chest. "Where did your friend go?" "Friend?" "That big thing that almost had me before you did." "Ah, the calthrop, not friend. Lucky man. Calthrop kills at night, was waiting till night to kill you." "I don't believe you. You were with it." "No, I only followed till it kills you." "Why?" Richard looked around for Kalen. He continued to hold the point of the sword against the creature on the ground while he yelled out her name. "Mistress has the pretty lady." "What are you talking about?" "We were following you, watching the calthrop play with you to see what would happen." "Who's your mistress?" "Shota." "Your mistress is the witchwoman, Shota?" The creature nodded vigorously. Richard's hand tightened on the hilt. "Why did she take the pretty lady?" "Don't know. Maybe to play with her. Maybe to kill her. Maybe to get you." Turn over, or I'll run you through." It flipped over, trembling. Richard leaned his boot into the small of its back. He reached in his pack, pulled out a length of rope. He ran a loop with a slipknot around its neck. "Do you have a name?" "Companion. I am mistress's companion, Samuel." "Well, Samuel, we're going after your mistress. You're going to lead the way. If you make one wrong move, I'll snap your neck with this rope. Understand?" "I can then reach. Take you there. No kill me." "And won't your mistress be angry with you for leading me to her?" "Mistress not afraid of seeker." "Do you have a name?" "Companion. I am mistress's companion, Samuel." "Well, Samuel, we're going after your mistress. You're going to lead the way. If you make one wrong move, I'll snap your neck with this rope. Understand?" "I can then reach. Take you there. No kill me." "And won't your mistress be angry with you for leading me to her?" "Mistress not afraid of seeker." Near dawn, at the edge of a descent into a dark wood, Samuel's long arm pointed downward. "I can then reach." The trail simply ended. Spread out far below was a long valley, lit by the sun. In the center of it all was a beautiful palace. Richard stood silent, mouth agape. The two of them started off. As they crossed the valley floor, they entered a shady cathedral of trees. Samuel's arms stretched out. He pointed to a rock. A woman in a long white dress, soft brown hair, her back to him, sat on the edge. Even from the back, she looked familiar. "Mistress," Samuel said, glassy-eyed. He pointed again to the side of the road. "Pretty lady." Richard could see Kalen standing stiffly. Something was on her, moving. Samuel looked up at Richard with one yellow eye. "Seeker promises," he said in a low growl. Richard untied the rope. Samuel abruptly skittered off into the shadows. Richard walked to Kalen, a tight knot in his stomach. With a jolt, he saw at last what was moving on her. Snakes. Kalen was covered by a writhing mass of snakes. The ones he recognized were poisonous. Tears ran down Kalen's cheeks. "Be still," he said. "I'll get them off." "No,
If you touch them, or if I move, they will bite me." A thin, banded viper, its tail coiled in her hair, dropped its head down. The red tongue flicked at her. "You can't save me now. Please, Richard, run. Run while you still have a chance."
"No. I came here to find out where the box is. Kalen, just hold on." In a rage, he strode over to the woman sitting on the rock with her back still to him. Something inside warned him not to pull the sword. When he reached her, she stood and gently turned. His heart leapt into his throat. It was his mother. "Richard." His mind raced. This couldn't be. Mother? Arms he knew, remembered, slipped around him, comforted him, brought tears to his eyes. "Oh, Richard, how I've missed you." Reeling, he fought to regain control of his emotions. This wasn't his mother. It was Shota, a witchwoman. But what if he was somehow wrong? "Richard, why have you come to me?" Richard put his hands on her small shoulders.
"Richard, stand away from her!"
It was Zed's voice. He turned his head, looking back up the road. It was Zed.
"Richard, do as I say. Stand away from her. Now!"
"Please, Richard," his mother breathed. "Don't you know me?"
"Yes, you are Shota." He stepped back from her. Suddenly, she spun toward the wizard. Her hands snapped up. With an ear-splitting crack, blue lightning erupted from her fingers, streaking toward Zed. The wizard's hands instantly brought up a shield, like glass. The lightning from Shota hit it with a thunderous peal and glanced off, striking a huge oak. The tree crashed to earth. The ground shuddered. Zed's hands were already up. Wizard's fire shot from his curled fingers. It shrieked as it came. "No!" Richard screamed. He couldn't let this happen. Shota was the only way to find the box, the only way to stop Rahl. Richard yanked the sword free and jumped in front of her. The magic raced through him. Wrath took him. The wizard's fire wailed in rage as it struck the sword, exploding around him. And then there was silence. He opened his eyes. The wizard's fire was gone. Zed stood frozen, unmoving, one hand in the air. Richard spun to the witchwoman. She was no longer his mother. Her hair was a wavy auburn, her skin flawless. Shota was as beautiful as the palace behind her. "My hero," she said. "Totally unnecessary, but it's the thought that counts." "And who is this? Another vision, or the real Shota?" "This is no illusion. This is real." "What have you done to Zed?" "Merely prevented him from harming me. He is all right, for the moment. I will kill him later after you and I have talked." "And Kalen?" "She is a very dangerous woman, more dangerous than even she knows. I have to protect myself from her. I will kill her later, too." "And me? Are you not afraid of me?" "A seeker? No, I don't think so." "Perhaps you should be." "Perhaps. Perhaps in normal times. But these are not normal times. These are times that demand strange alliances." He had the sword out. He realized that even its magic was being bewitched. "I make no alliances with those who would kill my friends." "Even if they try to kill me first?" "Richard, look at it from my eyes." "But you were very gallant." "That does not go unrewarded. You have earned a wish. Anything you want, simply name it, and it will be granted. Think it over." "I don't have to think it over. My wish is for you not to kill my friends, to let them go." "Oh, I'm afraid that would complicate things." "Oh? So your word means nothing?" "My word means everything. You came here for the answer to an important question. You have merely to ask the question as your wish, and I will grant it. Isn't that what you want? Ask yourself how many will die if you fail in your duty. Richard, the sword is confusing you, the magic. Put it away, then think again." Richard angrily thrust the sword back into its scabbard. "I've put the sword away, Shota. It changes nothing. You are going to answer my question anyway. Your life depends on it. Now, grant my wish." "Your wish, dear Richard, is granted." He turned to Kalen. The snakes were still on her. "Shota, you made a promise." "I promised I would not kill her, and that she could leave. When you go, she may go with you, but she is still a danger to me." "That isn't true. She guided me here seeking your help, the same as me." "You made a mistake with your wish, Richard. You should have let me kill her for you. There are other things I know, Richard, that you do not." "What things?"
Shota looked away from his eyes to Kaelin, who stood stone still while the snakes writhed on her. "It is obvious you do not know what she is, or perhaps you would not be with her. Please, Richard, hate me for who I am, if you will, but do not hate me for telling you the truth."
"The truth as you see it, Shota, but maybe not the truth as it will be. I will not kill Kaelin on your word."
Shota nodded sadly. "Queen Milena has the last box of Orden, but heed this warning. She will not have it for long. Samuel, guide them out of the reach." They had been on the road for 2 days, the road to Tamarang, the land ruled by Queen Milena. Richard had just awakened. Kaelin was watching him. "Last night, I decided there were some things I needed to tell you about how to conduct yourself with the Queen. I keep thinking about things I need to tell you, things you need to know." Her arms slipped around him as she laid her head against his chest for a moment. Then she pushed away. "Richard, I can't go on anymore without telling you about me, about what I am. I should have told you from the beginning. I have never had a friend like you before. I didn't want it to end." "Kaelin, you're my friend. Nothing can change that." "This secret can. This is about magic. Remember when I told you that some who lived in the Midlands were creatures of magic? Well, I am one of those creatures. I am more than a woman. I am a confessor."
"So, what does it mean to be a confessor?"
"It's a magic power, passed from mother to daughter. It is something we are born with, magic that is part of us. It's a power invoked by touch. It is the power of love."
"And I'm supposed to be afraid of the power of love?"
"You don't understand. Once touched, you are forevermore devoted to the one who touches you. Your soul is no longer yours, it is hers."
"Does it work on everyone?"
"Everyone human, except Darken Rahl. The wizards warn me that the magic of Orden protects him from our touch."
"I still don't understand. Why are you called confessors?"
"It is what we do. We are the final arbiters of truth. Once touched, even the most vile of murderers will do as we command. Confessors are independent. People resent that. Our hair is long, a symbol of authority, yet confessors have no friends but other confessors. Every man is afraid of us because in the throes of passion, a confessor's hold on the power would relax, and she would release it into him."
"Kaelin, is there any law or rule that says we can't be friends?"
"No."
"I could really use a friend right now."
"Me too. But I can be no more."
"I know. But Kaelin, I love—"
"Don't say that. Please, Richard. Don't ever say that." Near to midday they came to the lumber town of Horner's Mill. Even from a distance, Richard and Kaelin both knew something was wrong. The mill was silent, the streets empty. When they got close enough, the wind brought the putrid smell of death. The dead lay in corners and up against buildings like autumn leaves blown into piles. Windows in every building were shattered. "Rahl?" he asked. "No, this is not the way of Rahl. Rahl kills. This was a battle." They walked through the town. On the wall of a building was written a message: "Death to all who resist the Westland."
"It was not Westlanders," Richard muttered.
"We'll be safe here tonight," Rachel told her doll. Rachel missed Giller something fierce, but she had to do as he had said. She had to keep running away, finding a new wayward pine to sleep in every night. A pine bough moved by itself, making her start. She saw a big hand holding it back, then the shiny blade of a long sword. A man stuck his head in.
"What have we here?"
He smiled. A woman pushed her head in beside the man's. "Put the sword away," the woman scolded. "You're scaring her." Rachel pulled the partly unbundled loaf of bread close to her hip. She wanted to run, but her legs didn't work. The woman pushed into the wayward pine, came close and knelt down. Women with long hair were always trouble. "I'm not going to hurt you," the woman said. The woman reached out and touched Rachel's arm. She jumped with a cry. "Please, can't you just leave us be?" The man stuck his head around the woman.
"My name's Richard. What's yours?"
"Rachel?"
"Rachel? That's a pretty name. This is Kaelin. She scared me at first, too. She's awfully ugly, isn't she?"
"Richard, Where did you learn to speak to children like this? Rachel giggled at him. She couldn't help it. I don't think she's ugly. I think she's the prettiest lady I ever saw. Well, thank you, Rachel. Are you hungry? We caught some fish, and if you let us share your fire, we would share some fish with you. What do you say? Rachel looked up at Richard again. He gave her a wink. I'm afraid I caught more than we can eat. If you don't help us, we'll just have to throw some out. Well, all right then. I'll help you eat them. Kaylin started taking off her pack. Where are your parents? Dead? Rachel told the truth because she couldn't think of anything else to say. Kaylin gave her a squeeze on her arm. I'm sorry, Rachel. Then she pulled a knife from her belt. Should we all have a slice of your bread with the fish? Rachel dove for the loaf of bread, snatching it away just before Kaylin got her hand on it. Rachel? What's the matter? Kaylin asked. Giller, the wizard, had told her not to trust anyone. She had to think of something. What would Giller say? It's for my grandmother. Rachel, Richard asked, where is your grandmother? Rachel froze stiff. She didn't really have a grandmother. She thought about places she had heard the Queen's advisor's name. She said the first one that came into her mind. Horner's Mill. Rachel, we won't touch your grandmother's bread, Richard said. We promise. Come, have another piece of fish, Kaylin said. You can leave the loaf of bread over there. We won't bother it. Rachel still didn't move. She thought about running away. She had to do as Giller told her. Hide with the box until winter, or all those people would get their heads chopped off. Rachel, Richard said, I'm sorry, but we can't let you go to Horner's Mill. There's no one left in Horner's Mill. It's not safe. Well, that's all right. I'll go somewhere else. I'm afraid it's not safe anywhere, Rachel, Kaylin said. We will take you with us, so you will be safe. Where? We are going to Tamarang to see the Queen. Rachel stopped chewing. She couldn't breathe. We will take you with us. I'm sure the Queen will be able to find someone to take care of you if I ask. Kaylin, are you sure about this? Richard whispered. What about the wizard? Kaylin nodded. We will see to her before I skin Giller. Rachel knew it. She knew she shouldn't trust a woman with long hair. We can deal with it in the morning, Kaylin said. We better get some sleep so we can be off at first light. In the middle of the night, Rachel slipped out from under the blanket. You can track her, right? I can, Richard said. She must be cold. She didn't even take a blanket. She didn't take any food either, other than that loaf of bread she's saving for some reason. She's running from something. Maybe from whoever put those bruises on her arms. There's more to it, though. She lies with the ease of someone who has a powerful need. So we're going after her? Kaylin asked. No. How can we justify going after one little girl to solve the riddle of her loaf of bread while Rahl goes after the box? She took his hand in hers. She got into our hearts awfully quick. That she did. She's one special little girl. I hope she finds what she's after and that she is safe. Let's get moving. The moon was well up by the time Kaylin had a stew cooking on the fire. I think we have enough to feed Zed, she said. As if bidden by her words, the old man strode into the circle of light. I'm starved, he announced. Let's eat. Zed, is it truly you? Richard said. True as toasted toads, my boy. Oh, Zed, I'm so glad to see you. Yes, yes. Have you two been doing as I said? Have you been staying out of trouble? Richard and Kaylin told him all that had happened. He was angry about Shota. Richard has done as the Seeker should, Kaylin said. He has found where the box is. Queen Milena has it. And how do you propose we get it from her? Asked Zed. Knowing is one thing. Getting is quite another. Kaylin gave Zed a smile. Queen Milena is the one to whom the snake in the silver robes sold his services. He is about to have an unpleasant meeting with the Mother Confessor. Giller? Queen Milena is the one Giller went to? I think he will be astonished to meet my eyes again. You just leave this task to me. He is my wizard. I will deal with him. Richard then spoke without thinking. Maybe he had a good reason for doing what he did. Zed, yesterday we went to a place called Horner's Mill.
It seemed to have been pillaged by Westlanders. Zed nodded. I saw it, and I have seen many more like it. It wasn't Westlanders, was it? They wouldn't do that. No, it was Rahl's own men, by his command. That does not make any sense, Kaelin said. The town was loyal to Dahara. There were forces of the People's Peace Army there, and they were killed to a man. That's the very reason he did it. Wizards' first rule. People are stupid. Given proper motivation, almost anyone will believe almost anything. The same as you believed that what Shota created was really me. Because people are stupid, they will believe a lie because they want to believe it's true, or because they are afraid it might be true. Because of the wizard's first rule, the old wizards created confessors and seekers as a means of helping find the truth. Rahl knows the wizard's rules. He is using the first one. People need an enemy to feel a sense of purpose. Darken Rahl is providing them with an enemy other than himself. People are stupid. They want to believe, so they do. Wizard's first rule, Richard said. I'll remember. The next morning they set forth for Tamarang. Richard suggested a plan as to how they would deal with Queen Milena. Zed and Kaelin agreed to it. When they entered the city, Kaelin was wearing her Mother Confessor dress. The white dress shone in the bright sun. Back straight, head held high, she walked as if she owned the city. Zed, wearing Kaelin's pack for her, walked at Richard's side, 2 paces behind her. The captain of the guards almost jumped out of his armor when he saw her. He yelled orders, and men started running at his direction. The city gates swung inward. Before they reached the castle, trumpets announced the arrival of the Mother Confessor. All bowed in unison as she passed. The room was immense. A gleaming sea of black and white marble tiles swept away ahead of them. Ahead lay a grand stairway. Between themselves and the stairs waited a knot of people. At the front of them stood Queen Milena, an amply fed woman in layered silks of garish colors. She wore a cape trimmed in rare spotted fox. As they approached, everyone but the Queen dropped to a deep bow. The Queen stared at Kaelin, who didn't even look at her. No one spoke a word. The Queen lowered herself to both knees, took the Mother Confessor's hand, and kissed it. "Fidelity sworn to the confessors, on my crown, on my land, on my life." Richard had heard few people lie as smoothly. Kaelin looked down at the Queen's bowed head. "Rise, my child." Queen Milena laboriously pushed herself to her feet. "We have not requested a confessor." "Nonetheless, I am here." "Yes, well, this is grand. Oh, yes, simply grand. We will have a banquet. Yes, a banquet. This is quite an honor." She turned, indicating men in the red and yellow pantaloons. "These are my barristers. I don't remember all their names." Richard didn't see a silver-robed wizard among the Queen's entourage. The Queen waved her hand at a shabbily dressed man in the back. "And James, my court artist." From the corner of his eye, Richard saw Zed stiffen. James kept his lecherous eye on Kaelin as he gave a bow. He was missing his right hand at the wrist. Kaelin turned to the 2 of them. "Zedicus Zorander, Cloud Reader, trusted advisor to the Mother Confessor." Zed bowed dramatically. "And Richard Cypher, the Seeker, protector to the Mother Confessor." Richard imitated Zed's bow. "Yes. Well, as I was saying, it is grand having you here. You must be tired from your journey. Perhaps you would like to rest before dinner, and—" "I am not here to eat," Kaelin cut her off. "I have other pressing business. Before I go, I wish to speak with my wizard." Your wizard. Giller. Well, that would not be possible. Make it possible, right now. Richard loosened the sword in its scabbard, just enough to catch the Queen's attention. Very well. He is upstairs. The room at the top of the stairs was destroyed, completely.
The roof was gone as if it had been blasted away. Only a few exposed beams remained. A rope hung from one of the beams. Giller's naked body swung slightly as it hung upside down from the end of the rope. Ignoring the body, Zed began walking slowly around the circular room.
"Richard, come look at this," he called.
The wizard reached out and ran a finger through a gritty black area on the wall. There were 2 black areas, in fact, 2 blackened spots in the shapes of men standing at attention. Zed turned to him.
"Wizard's fire."
"You mean these were men?"
"Burn them right into the wall."
He tasted the black smudge on the end of his finger.
"But this was more than just wizard's fire. Taste it."
"It tastes sweet."
"Giller gave his life energy to it. This was a wizard's life fire."
"He died making this wizard's fire?"
"Yes, and it tastes sweet. That means he gave his life to save another."
Zed stood in front of Giller's body, swishing the flies away so he could see Giller's face.
"He has left a message. There is a smile on his face, meant to tell anyone who knows of such things that he did not give up what was wanted."
Richard stepped closer as Zed pointed to the opening cut across the abdomen.
"See here, the way this cut goes? This is done by one who practices anthropomancy, the divining of answers by the inspection of living entrails. Darken Rahl makes his cut very similar to the way his father did."
Richard remembered his own father and how Rahl had done this very thing to him.
"This cut is his signature. While incantations are spoken, the hook is cut, binding the questioned to the questioner. But see here, the hook is not finished. That is when Giller gave his life to the fire. He waited until Rahl was almost done, then denied him what he sought, probably the name of who has the box. Without life in them, his entrails could tell Rahl nothing."
"I never thought Giller capable of such a selfless act," Kalen said. Tenderly, Zed cupped a hand to the side of Giller's face.
"You have done well, my student. Honor in the end."
Queen Milena was still white as Kalen strode purposefully but calmly up to her. "Thank you for your hospitality," Kalen said. "We will be leaving now."
"Always a pleasure to see the Mother Confessor."
What of Giller? "I regret you have beaten me to him, but the results are all that matter. Disagreement, was it?"
He stole something that belonged to me."
"I see. Well, I hope you got it back." The setting sun was golden among golden clouds when 4 horses galloped toward them. Only one had a rider. The lone rider bent over his mount, urging him on. Richard lifted the sword, then let it drop. "Chase!" Chase brought the horses to a skidding halt. "Chase, is it ever good to see you?" Richard grinned. "How did you find us?"
"I'm a boundary warden. Find what you were after?"
"No," Richard admitted with a sigh. He saw little arms clutching at Chase's sides. A little face peeked around the black cloak. "Rachel? Is that you?" "Richard, I'm so happy to see you again. Isn't Chase wonderful? He fought a gar and saved me from being eaten." Richard grinned at her. "Yes, that is indeed wonderful." He noticed Rachel's doll and the bundle with the bread.
"Well, don't just stand there staring," said Chase. "I brought you all horses. Mount up. I figured I'd catch you today. I have a wild boar roasting back at the place you stayed last night." Zed leapt to a horse.
"Wild boar? What kind of fool are you, leaving a wild boar roasting unprotected? Anyone could just come along and take it."
"Why do you think I want you to hurry? The place is filthy with wolf tracks."
"Don't you dare hurt that wolf," Zed warned. "He's a friend of the Mother Confessor."
At the camp, Zed wasted no time before checking the roasting boar. Richard cut a big piece and handed it to Zed. "So, what happened? With my brother, I mean."
"When I told him the things you told me to tell him, he said that if you were in trouble, he was going to help.
After the boundary came down, he led 1,000 of his best men into the Midlands. They're all bivouacked up in the Rang Shada right now, waiting to help. Richard felt elation that his brother would drop everything to come help. Chase gave him a stern look. For a while, I thought you were finished, when I saw your trail going into Agaden Reach. You went into the Reach? How did you? Rachel screamed. Richard and Chase spun with their knives. Before Chase could use his knife, Richard stopped him. It was a wolf, but it spoke. Rachel? Is that you, Rachel? Her eyes were wide. You sound like Brophy. That's because I am Brophy. He trotted over to her. Brophy, how come you're a wolf? Because a kind wizard changed me into a wolf. That was what I wanted to be, and he changed me. Giller changed you into a wolf? The breath caught in Richard's throat. That's right. It's a wonderful new life I have. She threw her arms around the wolf's neck. Brophy licked her face as she giggled. Rachel, Richard said, you know Giller? Giller's a nice man. He gave me my doll. She gave a fearful look to Kaelin. You want to hurt him. You're the Queen's friend. You're mean. Brophy gave her face a long lick. You're wrong, Rachel. Kaelin is my friend. She is one of the nicest people in the world. Kaelin took Rachel's hands in hers. You heard me say something mean about Giller, didn't you? Rachel nodded. Rachel, the Queen is a bad person. Giller used to be my friend. When he went to live with the Queen, I thought it was because he was bad, too. I was wrong. I would never hurt Giller, now that I know he is still my friend. You and Richard aren't friends of the Queen? No. If I have my way, she will not be the Queen much longer. The Queen is mean. So is Princess Violet. Richard smiled at her. You know the princess, don't you? I'm her playmate. So you lived with the princess. She's the one who hit you. She's mean to people, so I ran away. Richard eyed the loaf of bread. Giller helped you run away, didn't he? Giller wanted to run away with me, but then a mean man came, Father Rahl. He looked real mad at Giller. Giller told me to run and to hide until winter, then to find a new family to live with. Richard glanced again at the loaf of bread. It was about the right size. Rachel, did Giller give you that loaf of bread? She nodded. Rachel, we were going to Giller to get a box to help us stop Darken Rahl from hurting people. Will you give it to us? Will you help us stop Rahl? With a brave smile, she picked up the bread and handed it to him. It's in the loaf of bread. Giller hid it with magic. Richard threw his arms around her, nearly hugging the breath out of her. Then he picked up the loaf of bread in both hands. The Seeker found it, Zed smiled. The Seeker should open it. Richard broke the bread open, and inside was the jeweled box of Orden. Richard set it on a rock where they could all see it in the firelight while they had the best dinner ever. Rachel cuddled in Chase's lap. Chase, she asked, where should I go to hide until winter? He regarded her with a glower. You're too ugly to be left to wander about. A gar would eat you, sure. I have other children. They're all ugly, too. You'll fit right in. I guess I'll take you to live at my house. But I have rules, you know. You have to follow my rules. I'll do anything you say, Chase. Well, there you go. That's the first rule. I don't allow any of my children to call me Chase. If you want to be a member of my family, you have to call me Father. And you'll have a mother. You'll have to mind her. And you'll have to play with your new brothers and sisters. Do you think you can do all that? She nodded, unable to talk as she hugged him, tears glistening in her eyes. It was barely light when they were off, the horses to the road, Brophy to the woods, shadowing them, or at times scouting ahead. Richard had insisted that Zed carry the box. It was wrapped in the cloth that held the bread and tied to the horn of his saddle. Richard could hear the waters of the Calicidron before they rounded the curve to the bridge. Richard watched in every direction as the other three galloped across in front of him. He saw nothing. In the exact center of the bridge, at a full gallop, he ran solidly into something
that wasn't there. Richard sat up, dumbfounded at finding himself on the ground. Zed was off his horse, helping Richard.
What's the matter?
I don't know. It felt like I ran into a wall right in the center of the bridge. I must have just fallen off, that's all. I think I'm all right now. Zed stood where the unseen wall stood. He took Richard's left hand.
Touch it with your other hand.
Richard did as he was told until the sick feeling made him withdraw. Zed seemed to feel it through Richard.
Bags! And double bags! It's a keeper spell drawn by that filthy artist, James. He's drawn it around you, and when you touched it the first time, it activated the spell. Once you touch it, it pulls tighter. If we don't get it off you, it will shrink until you are all that's in it, and you won't be able to move.
Then what?
It will crush you, or the poison of it will kill you.
Kalen grabbed the sleeve of Zed's robes. We have to go back. We have to get it off him.
Well, of course we do. We'll find the drawing and erase it.
I know where the sacred caves are, Kalen offered. No. Richard looked at their startled faces. That's what they want us to do. The box is too important. We can't take the risk. You just tell me where these caves are, Kalen, and Zed, you tell me how to erase the spell. After much protesting of the idea of not helping Richard, Kalen snatched up a stick. She drew a map in the dirt road. Zed took the stick from her and broke off 2 finger-length pieces. He rolled one between his palms.
Here, this will erase the curse.
Richard put it in his pocket. Zed rolled the other piece in his palms. He handed it to Richard.
With this, you can draw on the spell and change it if you have to.
Kalen looked up at him. I shouldn't be doing this, she whispered. She threw her arms around his neck and kissed him. Hard, fast, desperate. For a moment, the feeling of her fingers made him forget his own name. He stood, holding the reins of his horse, watching her gallop across the bridge. I love you, Kalen Hamnell, he whispered. Kalen's map led Richard to the mouth of a cave. He peeked around the opening. There was no one. Immediately inside were drawings on the walls. Hundreds of drawings, maybe thousands. Richard found drawings done by different hands but of the same subject. Around each was a circle, the circle having a skull and crossed bones on it. Keeper spells. But how was he to find his? Richard went toward the mouth of the cave to retrieve reed torches he had seen there. Before he had gone far, he ran smack into the invisible wall. He was trapped. He ran back into the darkness, searching. He had trouble seeing the spells. A thought came to him. If there be need enough, the night stone. With no time to lose, he pulled the leather pouch from his pack. He dumped the stone into his hand. Light filled the cave. He kept going. At last he came to the end of the drawings. Then he saw it. The man in the drawing was as tall as he. It was crude, but it was him. The sword held in the right hand had the word truth written on it. He immediately started erasing the sword. He backed away a step to look and hit the invisible wall. He dumped the stone back into the pouch and stood in the blackness, breathing hard, near panic. There was flickering light. He spun around. A man holding one of the reed torches came closer, an oily smile on his face. It was James, the artist.
I thought I might find you here. Anything I can do to help?
Richard cast a quick glance sideways. The torch gave enough light for him to see the drawing. The invisible wall pushed at his shoulder. A wave of nausea went through him. Richard spun to the drawing. He pulled out the stick Zed had told him could alter the drawing. Richard erased the right hand on the figure. "Stop that!" James yelled. Richard ignored him and kept erasing. James threw the torch on the ground and pulled out a drawing stick of his own. The artist started drawing fast. Richard knew that if James finished first, there would be no second chance. The unseen wall pressed up against Richard's back, forcing him against the wall of the cave. He barely had room to move his arms. James was drawing a sword, starting to write the word. Richard took his drawing stick and, with a line, connected the sides of the wrist on the figure, making a stump, just like the one James had. As he finished it, the pressure on his back lifted. James screamed. Richard turned to see him writhing on the floor of the cave, folding himself into a ball as he vomited. Richard shuddered. The artist's pleading eyes came up to him. I wasn't going to let it kill you. Only Trap you! Richard heard bones snapping. James was dead. Richard ran toward the cave entrance. Running out into the bright sunlight, he came to a halt. Squinting, he saw a ring of people around him, soldiers. At their lead was a woman. She was sheathed in leather cut to fit like a glove, blood-red leather. Richard stood with his hand on the hilt of the sword. He held it at full rage. The woman snapped her fingers at the men behind him. "Take him!" He heard the sound of steel being drawn. That was everything Richard needed to know. His sword came out in an arc as he spun. He let the anger loose with a vengeance and exploded through him. Twin grunts. At impact, twin wet thwacks like ripe melons hitting the ground. Insides turned out in long red ropes. The top halves of their bodies tumbled as the legs collapsed. The sword continued around, tracing its route with strings of blood. He refocused the rage, the hate, the need. She commanded them. Richard wanted her lifeblood. Richard met her eyes. The sword tip whistled around toward her head. The pain of the sword's magic hit him like icy water on naked flesh. The blade never reached her. The sword clattered to the ground as the pain took him to his knees, ripping through him, doubling him over. Hand on her hip, smile on her face, she stood over him, watching. My, and here I thought I was going to have to torture you for days and days before I finally made you angry enough to use your magic against me. Well, not to worry. I have other reasons to torture you. Do you want the pain to stop, my pet? No, he managed with all of his strength. Fine by me. But when you decide you want the pain of the magic to stop, all you have to do is stop thinking those nasty thoughts about me. From now on, I control the magic of your sword. The pain let up the smallest bit. He gasped for air. Who are you? She took a fistful of his hair, lifted his head, twisted it around to look into his eyes. I am Denna, Mistress Denna to you, my pet. I'll not tell you where Kaelin is. You might as well kill me now. Who? Kaelin? The Mother Confessor. Mother Confessor? Why in the world would I want a confessor? It is you, Richard Cypher, that Master Rahl sent me for. No one else. One of your friends has betrayed you to him. He was her prisoner in Queen Melena's castle. His mind was a fog. He could remember nothing. After countless days of brutal torture, he and Denna were summoned by Father Rahl. Denna pushed the doors open and entered a grand garden. Near the center of the lawn, near a circle of white sand, stood a man with his back to them. The sunlight made his white robes and shoulder-length blonde hair glow. Sparks glinted off the curved dagger at his waist. As Richard and Denna approached him, Denna dropped to her knees, putting her forehead to the ground. Richard had been instructed and did the same. Rise, my children. Richard stood while intense blue eyes studied him. How good to meet you at last, Richard Cypher. I have some questions. You are going to give me the answers. Yes, Master Rahl. Kneel. Richard went to his knees with the aid of Denna. She pulled his head back a little, making him look up into the Master's blue eyes. You have seen the Book of Counted Shadows before? Something told Richard he shouldn't answer. Denna tightened her grip and pushed against the base of his skull. There was a stunning explosion of pain in his head. Blue eyes looked down at him. You have seen the Book of Counted Shadows before? Yes, he heard himself say. Where is it now? The book? Or the knowledge of the book? The book. I burned it in a fire years ago. And where is the knowledge? In my head. Before I burned the book, I learned the words. Recite the words of the book. Verification of the truth of the words of the Book of Counted Shadows, if spoken by another,
rather than read by the one who commands the boxes, can only be ensured by the use of a confessor. Confessor. Calen. The name Calen went through Richard's mind like a bolt of lightning. The power roared to life, blasted away the fog. The door to the locked room in his mind was flung open. Darken Rahl turned to the other men. You see, the fates work for me. She is already on her way here with the old one. Find her. See to it she is brought to me. And Demon, I don't care what your men do to her, but she had better be alive when she gets here, and able to use her power. It will be done as you wish, Lord Rahl. Darken Rahl turned to Richard. Continue. I will not. There is nothing you can do to make me. I welcome the pain. I welcome death. Rahl licked his fingertips. Richard and I are going to have a private conversation. While he is in this room with me, I wish you to let him speak without the pain of the magic. You may return to your quarters. When I am done with him, and if he is still alive, I will send him back to you, as promised. Denna bowed deeply. I live to serve, Master Rahl. Richard let the anger rage, just to feel it, as he watched her walk away. He turned to face Darken Rahl. I want to know what the rest of the book says. Kill me, just like you killed my father. Your father? I have not killed your father, Richard. George Cypher, you killed him. Oh, I don't deny killing George Cypher, but I have not killed your father. Your father? I have not killed your father, Richard. George Cypher, you killed him. Oh, I don't deny killing George Cypher, but I have not killed your father. What are you talking about? Darken Rahl strolled around him, watching his eyes. It's quite good. It really is. Done by the Great One himself. The wizard's web around you. I've never seen one like it. What does the Book of Counted Shadows say? That's your question? You disappoint me. How so? After what was done to your bastard father, I thought sure you'd want to know the old wizard's name. In 1 week it will be the first day of winter, and I will know the name of the wizard, and have the power to snatch him from wherever he is. In 1 week you will be dead. You have only 2 boxes. I have 2 right now, and the third is on its way as we speak. Richard let his face show nothing. A brave boast, but a lie nonetheless. In 1 week you are going to die. I speak the truth. You have been betrayed. The same one who has betrayed you to me has also betrayed the box to me. It will be here in a few days. Let me show you something. Richard followed him to a wedge of white stone, upon which sat a flat slab of granite, held up by 2 short, fluted pedestals. In the center of the slab sat 2 of the boxes of Orden. One was ornately jeweled, the other was as black as the nightstone. 2 of the boxes of Orden, Rahl announced. Why would I want the book? The book would be useless to me without the 3rd box. You had the 3rd box. The one who betrayed you told me so. Who betrayed me in the box? Tell me the name. I will not betray the name of one who has helped me. Richard didn't know what to believe. Rahl was right about one thing. He wouldn't need the book if he didn't have all 3 boxes. Someone really had betrayed him. Just kill me, Richard said. I'm not going to tell you. You might as well cut me open. First, you must convince me you are telling the truth. You could be deceiving me. And what possible reason could I have for wanting you to believe me? I thought you cared about this confessor, Calen. You see, if you can't convince me, then I will have to cut her open and have a look at her entrails, see if they have anything to say about this. That would be the biggest mistake you could make. You need her to confirm the truth of the book.
So you say. How would I know you really do know what the book says? Richard said nothing, his mind racing in 1,000 directions at once. How did you get the covering off that box without the book? He asked. The Book of Counted Shadows is not the only source of information about the boxes. Magic is not one-dimensional. You have been looking at only one side of it. Richard stared blankly at the jeweled box. Page 12 of the Book of Counted Shadows. Under the heading it says, "The covering on the boxes may be removed by anyone with the knowledge, not only the one who has put them in play." Richard reached out and lifted the jeweled box off the granite. Richard held the box up in the late-day sunlight. Turn the box so that the small end with the blue stone may face the quadrant with the sun. The yellow stone is to face up. Richard grasped the box as directed. Place the first finger of the left hand on the blue stone on the side facing away, the thumb of the left hand on the ruby stone of the side closest. Pull the two hands apart, taking the covering away with them. As Rahl watched, Richard pulled. The cover made a clicking sound and came apart. He held the box just over the granite and pulled the cover away. Two equally black boxes now sat side by side. Remarkable, Rahl breathed. And you know every part of the book this well? Every word. What I have told you will be of no aid in removing the third cover, however. They each come off differently. No matter. I will get it off. You are free to go. What do you mean, I'm free to go? Aren't you going to try to get the book out of me? Kill me? It would do me no good. The ways I have of getting information from you would damage your brain. You, therefore, are of no use to me right now, so you may go. Just like that. You must know I will try to stop you. I'm not worried about anything you could do. But you must be back here in 1 week, when I open the boxes, if you care at all what happens to everyone. What do you mean, if I care what happens to everyone? In 1 week, on the first day of winter, I'm going to open one of the boxes. I have been able to learn from other sources how to tell which box would kill me. If I open the right one, I will rule unchallenged. If I open the other, the world will be destroyed. Richard felt empty, devastated. Am I free to go now? I bear no ill will toward you, Richard. You may stay in the people's palace, or you may leave. My guards will accommodate you. You will, however, have a wizard's web around you. It's called an enemy web. When your allies see you, they will see an enemy. I would like you to see the way people think of me. See how unjustly I am regarded. It was deep in the night when he left the people's palace. He kept a tight grip on the hilt of the sword as he went past 2 big guards at the open gate. Horse, sir? Richard spun around. One of the guards had spoken to him. What? The Azrith Plains. You're looking to the west, across the Azrith Plains? It's a long walk across. Would you like a horse? Yes, I would like a horse. The guard blew a small whistle. Won't be long, sir. How far to the Rang Shada Mountains? 4, maybe 5 days. Richard's heart sank. Of course, Rahl didn't care if he had a horse. Where was he going to go? Michael and the Westland Army were 4 or 5 days away in the Rang Shada. He couldn't get to them and back before the week was out, before the first day of winter. 2 soldiers in full battle armor came riding through the gate, bringing a 3rd horse with them. Piece of advice, if I may, sir? If you go across the Azrith Plains, near morning you'll come to a boulder field. There'll be a split in the road in a deep canyon. Take to the left. Why? Because to the right there'll be a dragon. A red dragon of a bad temper. Master Rahl's dragon. Richard mounted the horse. Thanks for the advice. I'll remember. The whole thing didn't make any sense. Richard would rather die himself than harm either Zed or Kalen.
But what if Zed was betraying them, and the only way to save Kalen would be to kill his old friend? Or what if it was the other way around? The important thing was to stop Rahl. He had to recover the last box. He had found the box once. He would have to find it again. But how? How was he going to find Zed and Kalen? He was one man on a horse, and there was a whole country to search. Dawn brought him his own shadow to chase. The terrain began undulating. The road took a bend to the left. Richard remembered what the guard had told him. Then a thought came to him. Darken Rahl had let him have a horse so he might go where he wished. Maybe Darken Rahl wouldn't mind if Richard borrowed his dragon. Surely a red dragon wouldn't be hard to spot. Richard rode for a long time among the rubble of boulders on the canyon floor. He began to worry that the dragon was gone. Maybe Rahl himself was riding it. Maybe to get the box. A blinding burst of fire erupted with a deafening roar. The horse reared. Richard leapt off and scrambled behind a boulder as the air filled with flying stones and fire. He heard the horse thud to the ground and smelled burnt hair. It screamed a terrible neigh until there was a snapping of bones. Richard crouched tighter against the rock, afraid to look. He decided that this had been a very stupid idea. He could hardly believe the dragon was so well hidden that he hadn't even seen it. The sound of the horse being eaten made his stomach turn. At last it ended. He wondered if dragons took naps after they ate. There were a few snorts. The snorts came closer. Talons rasped over the boulder he was hiding behind and lifted it right off the ground, tossing it aside. Richard looked up into piercing yellow eyes. Almost everything else was an intense red. The beast snorted.
"What have we here? A tasted treat?"
Richard sprang to his feet and drew the sword. "I need your help."
"Only too glad to help you, little man, but not until after I eat you."
"I'm warning you. Stay back. This sword has magic."
"Magic? Oh, please, brave man, don't slay me with your magic sword."
Richard kept the sword out, but felt suddenly foolish. "I had heard red dragons were an independent sort, but that you are little more than a lapdog to Darken Rahl. I thought you might like to be free of your bonds and be independent once more."
"And how would a little man like you be able to do that?"
"I'm trying to stop Darken Rahl. Kill him. If you helped me, then you would be free." The dragon threw its head up, smoke puffing from its nostrils as it rumbled in laughter. The ground shook.
"I don't think so. I don't think I would like to put my fate in a little man like you. Time for my tasty treat."
"All right, I'm prepared to die. But before you eat me, may I tell you something? I've never seen a dragon before. There is one thing I wasn't prepared for. You are the most stunningly beautiful creature I have ever seen." It was the truth. The neck of the dragon made itself into an S as it pulled its head back, blinking in surprise. "It's true. I'm to be eaten. I have no reason to lie. You are beautiful. Do you have a name?"
"Scarlet."
"Scarlet. What a lovely name. Are all red dragons as stunning as you, or are you special?" Scarlet put a claw to her breast.
"Well, that would not be for me to say. I have never had a man I was about to eat tell me such a thing. What is your name?"
"Richard Cypher. I am the Seeker."
"Seeker? I don't believe I've ever eaten a seeker before. Our talk is over, Richard Cypher. Thank you for the compliment."
The head floated closer, the lips pulling back in a snarl. "Darken Rahl stole your egg, didn't he?"
"Oh! What do you know about that?"
"I know that a proud creature such as you would not subject herself to such demeaning duties except for one reason, to protect something important, like her young."
"So you know
"That will not save you. I also know where Darken Rahl is keeping your egg."
"Where? Tell me where it is."
"I thought you wanted to eat me now. Someone should teach you not to be flippant." "Sorry, Scarlet. It's a bad habit. Look, if I help you get your egg back, would it be worth helping me?"
"How?"
"Well, You fly Rahl around. That's what I need. I need you to fly me around for a few days. Help me look for some friends of mine so I can protect them from Rahl. I need to be able to cover a lot of ground. I don't like flying men about. It's humiliating. 6 days from now, it will all be over. If you help me, that's all I would need. How long will you have to serve Rahl if you don't help me? All right. Tell me where my egg is, and I will let you go. If you want me to help you get your egg back, then you will have to agree to help me save the ones I care about. We will get the egg first, then you help me. I think it more than a fair trade. And how do you know that once I have my egg, I will keep my end of the bargain? Because you know what it is like to fear for the safety of another, and you have honor. I will trust your word with my life. Bargain struck. But I have not given my word I will not eat you at the end of the 6 days. The next day, Scarlet took Richard into Dahara, searching the roads and trails. Richard hoped his friends wouldn't be this close to Darken Rahl. Near midday, Richard saw them. He yelled at Scarlet to take them down. Richard jumped off, running as he hit the ground. The three stood, holding the reins to their horses. They stood still as he ran toward them. When he looked up, Wizard's fire was wailing toward him. He froze in surprise. What was Zed doing? The ball of liquid fire was bigger than any he had seen before. Richard drew the sword. Released, the sword's magic raced instantly through him. Wrath took him at the thought of Zed betraying them. It couldn't be Zed. The impact drove him back. The anger of the wizard's fire exploded, and then it was gone. Zed, what are you doing? Are you crazy? It's me, Richard. Zed took Kalen's arm in his stick-like hand and pulled her protectively behind himself. Chase started forward, the look in his eyes as dark as his clothes. Chase, Zed cautioned, don't be a fool. Stay where you are. Richard looked from one grim face to another. What's the matter with you three? I told you not to come after me. Darken Rahl has sent men to capture you. You must turn back. Zed turned to Kalen, but kept his eyes on Richard.
Do you know what he's saying?
No. I think it's High Daharan. I don't speak High Daharan. Richard remembered. It was the enemy web Darken Rahl had put on him. They thought he was the worst enemy. They thought he was Darken Rahl. Another thought came to him. Zed, at least, thought he was Darken Rahl and had used Wizard's fire against him. Zed wasn't the traitor. That left only Kalen. Could it be she saw him for who he really was? Choked with fear at the thought, he advanced toward her. Who do you see? The Seeker whispered. Darken Rahl or Richard? She trembled slightly, seemingly unable to move. Richard's eye caught something, and he saw that he had the sword at her throat. If she was the traitor, he had to kill her. Who do you see? What have you done to Richard? She answered. If you have harmed him, I swear I will kill you. With tears in his eyes, he slid the sword into its scabbard. I'm sorry, Kalen. I know you and Zed would never betray me. Forgive me for thinking it. What do you want? Zed asked. We can't understand you. Zed, where's the box? Zed frowned. Richard knew this was doing no good. They couldn't understand him. They wouldn't have the box, not if they were coming to Dahara to save him. He had to get the box. Then he would come back and protect them from the men Rahl sent. Reluctantly, he climbed back up onto Scarlet. Let's get out of here. We have to go find my brother. He should be with an army, somewhere between here and the Rang Shada. Late in the afternoon, Scarlet spotted the army. She was better at seeing things from this height than he. Do you think you could land us ahead of them? He said, without letting them see us? A big yellow eye frowned back at him. I'm a red dragon. I had no trouble with the gauze that was surrounding the egg that you led me to, did I? Scarlet came down behind some of the higher ground, keeping out of sight of the road. Richard slid off her shoulder. Her head came around. What now? I want to wait until dark, until they set up for the night. After they eat, I'll be able to sneak into Michael's tent. It will be dark soon. I must return to my egg. It needs to be warmed. I understand, Scarlet. Come back for me in the morning.
It was well past dinner when he finally reached their camp. It was a dark night. Clouds hid the moon. He worked his way carefully down the hill, creeping silently between the guards. Michael had made it easy for him. His tent was set off, away from the men.
Richard, how did you... What are you doing here? It's so good to see you again. We have all been so worried.
Richard's smile withered. When the enemy web was put on him, Rahl had said those who honored Rahl would see Richard for who he was. Michael saw him for who he was. Michael was the one who had betrayed him. Where is the box?
You look hungry, Richard. Let me have some dinner brought in for you. It's been so long.
Where is the box?
The box? Well, Zed told me about it, and the three of them went off after you. I told them I wanted to come too, to save my brother, but I had to get the men together. Zed kept the box. He has it.
Richard now knew. Darken Rahl had the third box. Darken Rahl had spoken the truth. The Seeker suppressed his emotions and made a quick assessment of the situation. The only thing that mattered now was getting to Kalen. Well, as long as the box is safe, that's what counts. Thank you, Michael, for coming to help me.
You're my brother. What else was I going to do?
With the pain of betrayal burning hotly in him, Richard forced a warm smile. Michael, I need a horse. I must be on my way right now.
We'll all go with you, me and my men. Now that we're back together, I don't want to lose sight of you again. No. You know me, I'm used to being alone in the woods. It's what I do best. Please, Michael, take the army back to Westland. I'll get my own horse. You go back to your work. Richard felt like the biggest fool that had ever lived. He should have known. He should have figured it out a long time ago. Wizard's first rule: people are stupid. They believe what they want to believe. Michael, I have to go. You men! Michael called to the guards. I want my brother to stay with us for his own protection. 3 guards started for him. Richard leapt over the brush and into the night. They followed, clumsily. These were not woodsmen, they were soldiers. He slipped through the darkness while he heard Michael yelling for them to stop him, but not to kill him. Of course not. He wanted to hand Richard over to Darken Rahl personally. Richard made his way around the camp to the horses. He cut all the lead lines, then mounted one, bareback. He yelled and kicked and slapped at the others. They bolted in panic. Men and horses ran in every direction. The sound of frantic voices faded behind him. His face was wet with mist and tears as he ran his horse into the blackness. Richard stood high on a mountain. The sea of clouds was unbroken except for one thing: the People's Palace. A cold feeling ran through his gut. It was a long way off. He had no time to waste. When the sun was at its zenith, the boxes could be opened. As he turned, Scarlet's shadow swept over him. Scarlet's claw gripped him around the middle, lifting him away. Thank you, my friend. You are a dragon of honor. I made a bargain, that is all. Besides, someone has to help you. You can't seem to stay out of trouble on your own. You are the most beautiful beast I have ever seen. Scarlet, I need to get to the People's Palace. Will you take me? Please? You didn't find your friends? Your brother? My brother has betrayed me and everyone to Darken Rahl. I wish people had half the honor of dragons. I'm sorry, Richard Cypher. Climb on. Scarlet lifted over the outer wall and swooped down into a vast courtyard, fluttering her wings to stop their descent. There were no guards, no people to be seen. Richard slid down her red scales, landing on his feet with a thump. Scarlet snorted. Our bargain is at an end. The next time I see you, you will be fair game. Fair enough, my friend, but you'll not get the chance. Today, I am going to die. Try not to let that happen, Richard Cypher. I would still like to eat you. Richard's smile widened as he rubbed a glossy scale. Take care of your little dragon when it hatches. I wish I had had a chance to see it. It will be beautiful too, I know. You are a rare man, Richard Cypher.
I have never seen one the match of you. I am the seeker, the last seeker. Take care, seeker. You have the gift. Use it. Use everything you have to fight. If you are to die, die fighting with everything you have. That is the way of a dragon. Zed scanned the edges as they ascended the side of the plateau. Ahead, a drawbridge began lowering. Chase leaned closer to Zed. I don't like this. It's too easy. The battlements were alive with men. Kalen didn't pause, but marched toward the gate. 2 guards pushed the immense doors back as she approached. Chase glared at the captain of the guards.
You let anyone in?
The captain gave a surprised stare. She is expected by Master Rahl. Chase grunted and followed after. So much for our sneaking up on him. One does not sneak up on a wizard of Rahl's talents. The route they followed took them to an intersection of enormous halls, built in the pattern of a wheel. Kalen stopped and turned her green eyes to the wizard. Which way? Zed pointed down a hall to the right.
How do you know where we're going?
Chase asked.
The People's Palace is built on a pattern I recognize, the pattern of a magic spell. It's drawn to protect him from other wizards. I have very little power here. The core of it is a place called the Garden of Life. Darken Rahl will be there.
The fragrance of flowers engulfed them as they stepped into the Garden of Life. Zed knew immediately that something was wrong. There was no doubt. All 3 boxes were in the room. Across the lawn was a circle of white sand, sorcerer's sand. In his whole life, Zed had never seen so much of it in one place. Beyond the sorcerer's sand sat a sacrificial altar. There, on the stone altar, were the 3 boxes of Orden. Each had its cover removed. Each was black as midnight. In front of the boxes, with his back to them, stood Darken Rahl, gazing at the boxes, his prizes. Zed watched Kalen as she stared across at Darken Rahl. If she could, in fact, touch Rahl with her power, they would be saved. He felt the blood rage emanating from her, the seething fury. Kalen started across the grass. Zed and Chase followed, but she turned and placed a hand on the wizard's chest. Both of you will wait here. Zed's hopes lifted when he saw the look of alarm on Darken Rahl's face, alarm and fear at seeing Kalen. The alarm turned to action. As Kalen approached, Darken Rahl suddenly drew the Sword of Truth. They were too close to be stopped now. Zed had to help her. The wizard used every bit of strength he had and threw a bolt of lightning across the white sorcerer's sand. He drained all his power into it. The blue lightning hit the sword, knocking it from Rahl's hands. Darken Rahl backed away as Kalen advanced. He bumped into the altar, able to back away no farther. He ran his fingers through his hair as Kalen stopped in front of him. Zed's smile faded. Something was wrong. The way Rahl ran his fingers through his hair sparked his memory. The Mother Confessor reached out and seized Darken Rahl by the throat. "This is for Richard!" There was an impact to the air, thunder with no sound. A vine-covered door in a wall to the side opened. The real Darken Rahl emerged, followed by Michael and 2 big guards. Kalen blinked in confusion. The enemy web wavered, and in a shimmer of light, the one who had been Darken Rahl was Richard. Kalen screamed in anguish at what she had done. The 2 guards stepped behind her. Chase reached up for his sword. He was frozen in place before his hand reached it. Zed brought his hands up, but there was no power left. At seeing what she had done, Kalen yanked the knife from the belt of a guard. With a cry, she held it up to plunge it into herself. Michael grabbed her from behind, twisted the knife from her hands, and held it to her throat. Richard launched himself in a fury at his brother, but crashed into an invisible wall and was knocked back. One of the guards tied a gag to Kalen's mouth. Richard, on his knees, fell against Darken Rahl, gripping his robes. "Don't hurt her! Please, don't hurt her!" "So glad to see you have come back, Richard. I'm sorry it had to be this way, I really am. Although you don't realize it, you and I are very much alike. But I'm afraid you have fallen victim to the wizard's first rule. Don't hurt Mistress Kaelin. Please. You have my word, my son. If you do as I ask, recite the Book of Counted Shadows.
Zed reeled in shock. Richard turned to Kaelin.
What should I do, mistress?
Kaelin struggled against Michael, against the knife at her throat.
Recite the Book of Counted Shadows, Richard, or I will have Michael start by cutting off her fingers one at a time. The longer you remain silent, the more he will cut.
Richard spun back to Rahl. Verification of the truth of the word of the Book of Counted Shadows, if spoken by another rather than read by the one who commands the boxes, can only be ensured by the use of a confessor.
The world as they knew it was ending. This was the first day of the rule of Rahl. All was lost. The afternoon wore on, Richard reciting. Zed realized that the procedure for opening the boxes was going to take longer than he thought. There were enchantments to be drawn. That was the reason Rahl needed so much sorcerer's sand. The boxes had to be placed just so, the winter's first sun touching them, dictating their position once they each cast a shadow. Each, although they looked identical, cast a different shadow. As the sun sank lower in the sky, the fingers of shadows grew away from each box. One of the boxes cast a single finger of shadow, another cast 2, and the third cast 3. Now he knew why it was called the Book of Counted Shadows. At dawn, after all the enchantments were drawn, each box was placed on a specific drawing. Spells were cast. Darken Rahl stared at the black boxes. Continue. Once so arranged, Orden is at the ready to be commanded. One world under one command is marked by the box with 2 shadows. Open it to gain your reward. Darken Rahl turned slowly to Richard. You're on. That is the end.
There must be more.
No, Master Rahl.
Rahl grabbed Richard's throat. Did you learn the entire book?
Yes, Master Rahl.
That can't be right. That isn't the right box. The box with 2 shadows is the one that will kill me. I learned that much. I learned which one will kill me.
I have told every word true, every single word. I don't believe you. He looked to Michael.
Cut her throat.
Richard fell to his knees. Please, you gave me your word. You said if I told you, you wouldn't harm her.
Last chance, Richard. Tell me the truth or she dies.
I can't tell you anything differently. I have told you every word true.
Zed came to his feet. He watched the knife at Kaelin's throat. He watched Darken Rahl. Rahl had obviously found information from another source, and that information was in conflict with the book. The smile came back to Darken Rahl's face. All right, Richard. I just had to be sure you were telling the truth. I am. I swear on Kaelin's life. Rahl nodded. He gave a wave of his hand to Michael. Michael relaxed the knife. Rahl turned to the boxes. At last, the magic of Orden is mine. Zed couldn't see it, but he knew that Darken Rahl lifted the lid on the middle box, the one with 2 shadows. He could tell by the light expanding from it. It settled over Master Rahl, lighting him in a golden glow. He turned, smiling toward Richard. Thank you, my son, for coming back, for helping Father Rahl. You will be rewarded, as I promised. You have delivered to me that which is mine. I can feel the power. Richard stood without emotion, watching. Zed sank to the ground again. What had Richard done? How could he? He had been touched by a confessor, that was how. It was over. Zed forgave him. Bathed in the golden light, Darken Rahl slowly rose a few feet off the ground. The white sand turned golden, continued turning darker. The light around Rahl darkened to amber. His head came down, his smile fading. The sorcerer's sand crisped to black. The ground trembled. A smile spread on Richard's face. He went and retrieved the sword of truth, the anger of the sword's magic flooding into his gray eyes. A wailing roar came from the ground. The black sand under Rahl's feet split open. Violet light shot up, engulfing him. He twisted in it, screaming. Richard, his chest heaving, stood transfixed, watching. The invisible prison around Zed shattered. Chase's hand abruptly completed its journey to his sword, yanking it free as he flew toward Kaelin. The two guards released her arms and met him halfway. Michael's face paled. He stared in shock as Chase cut down one of the men. Kaelin drove her elbow into Michael's gut and grabbed the knife. Disarmed, Michael raced off. Chase and the second guard tumbled to the ground. The guard cried out. Chase came to his feet. The other didn't. He ran off down the path Michael had taken. Kaelin disappeared in another direction. Zed and Richard stood, spellbound, as Darken Rahl struggled, trapped in the grip of the magic of Orden. Violet light and dark shadows held him tight in the air above the black hole.
"Richard!" Rahl shrieked. "What have you done?"
Why, only what you wanted, Master Rahl. I have told you what you wanted to hear.
"But it was the truth! You told the words true!"
Yes, I did. I just didn't tell you all of them. I left out most of the paragraph at the end. Be cautioned. The effect of the boxes is fluid. It shifts with the intent. To be master of all, so you may help others, shift one box to the right. To be master of all, so all will do your bidding, shift one box to the left. Your information was correct. The box with two shadows was the one that would kill you.
"But you had to do as I said. You were touched by a confessor's power."
Was I? Wizard's first rule. It's the first rule because it's the most important. You should have guarded better against it. That's the price of arrogance. I accept my vulnerability. You don't. The book said you had to confirm the truth with the use of a confessor. You only thought you had done that. Wizard's first rule. You believed because you wanted to. I have beaten you.
"It can't be! It's not possible! How could you have known how to do this?"
You taught me. Nothing, including magic, is one-dimensional. You should never have taught me something you didn't want me to know. Thank you, Father Rahl, for teaching me the most important thing I will ever learn. How to love Kaelin. Darken Rahl's face distorted in pain. He laughed and screamed. Richard looked around.
"Where's Kaelin?"
Zed pointed a long finger.
"I saw her leave that way."
Richard slid the sword back into its scabbard. Goodbye, Father Rahl. I trust you will die without my watching it.
"Richard!"
Rahl shrieked.
"Richard!"
Zed stood alone with Darken Rahl. He watched as transparent fingers of smoke entwined around the white robes, pinning Rahl's arms to his sides. Zed stepped closer, the blue eyes coming to the old wizard.
"Zedicus Zulzoranda, you have won this much of it, but maybe not all of it. Tell me who he is."
Zed shrugged.
"The Seeker."
"He is your son, isn't he? I have at least been defeated by wizard blood."
Zed shook his head slowly.
"He's my grandson."
"You lie! Why put a web around him? Hide his father's identity if it is not you."
"I put a web around him because I did not want him to know who the blue-eyed bastard was who raped his mother and gave him life."
Darken Rahl's eyes widened.
"Your daughter was killed. My father told me so."
"A little trick to keep her safe. Though you didn't know who she was, you hurt her. Without intending it, you also gave her happiness. You gave her Richard."
"I am his father?"
"George Cypher was a good, kind man. I was proud to have him as my daughter's husband. George loved Richard as his own, but he knew the truth, except about me, who I was. It was hidden by the web. I could have hated Richard for his father's crimes, but chose instead to love him for himself. He turned out to be quite a man, don't you think?"
Vapor, smoke, shadows, and light spun in a roar. The ground shook violently. The sorcerer's sand, now black as pitch, was sucked into the vortex. Darken Rahl's voice came hollow, empty.
dead. Read the prophecies, old man. Things may not yet be as final as you think. I am an agent.
A point of blinding light ignited in the center of the spinning mass. Zed shielded his eyes. There was a piercing shriek. A flash lit everything to white, and then there was silence. Cautiously, Zed took his hands from his eyes. It was gone. The wizard felt his power seeping back into his bones. He stood before the altar, spread his arms into the sunlight, and closed his eyes.
I recall the webs. I am who I was before. Zedicus Zulzoranda, wizard of the First Order. Let all know it once more. And the rest, too.
The people of Dahara were linked to the House of Rahl, a link forged in magic long ago by those who would rule. With the webs removed, that link to the gift would be felt by many, and let them know that Richard was now Master Rahl. Zed would have to tell Richard that Darken Rahl was his father, but not this day. He would have to find the words first. There were many things to tell him, but not this day. Richard found her. The gag was still tied around her neck. Kaelin hunched over in tears, the knife gripped in both fists, the point held to her chest.
"Don't do that," he whispered. "I must. I love you. I have touched you with my power. I touched you with the magic. I felt it. I heard it. I saw it. How could the power not have taken you?" "Because I was protected." "Protected? How?" "By my love for you. I realized I love you more than life itself, and I would rather give myself into your power than live without you. My love for you is smooth and seamless. My love for you protected me from the magic." Kaelin circled her arms around his neck, kissing him. The three emerged from the cavernous halls out into the winter sunlight. The hillside of steps cascaded down before them to the huge expanse of courtyard. The three paused at the brink. Richard gasped when he saw the numbers gathered there. Spread out before them were thousands of men, standing tall in rank upon rank. Chase stood before them all, his arms folded, looking up the steps. Next to him, planted in the ground, was a pole with Michael's head atop it. Richard stood, stunned by the silence. The captain of the Home Guard stepped forward.
"The Home Guard stands ready to swear loyalty to you, Richard."
The commander of the Westland Army stepped up next to the captain.
"As does the Westland Army."
A Daharan officer came forward.
As do the Daharan forces.
Richard felt the anger, heat in him.
"No one's swearing loyalty to anyone, least of all me. I'm a woods guide, nothing more. Get that through your heads right now. A woods guide."
Richard returned his gaze to the Daharan officer standing before him. Everyone waited.
"Send word. All hostilities are ended. The war is ended. See to it that all forces are recalled to their homelands. All armies of occupation are withdrawn."
Zed hesitated, then spoke.
"Richard, do you really think this is going to work? Calling the forces home? Having the Westland Army help them?"
"Probably not. But you can never tell about your first rule, and it should gain time until we can get everyone home again, and you can put the boundary back up. Then we'll be safe once more. Then we'll be finished with the magic."
A roar came from the sky. Richard looked up to see Scarlet circling. Men fell back, yelling and scattering. Scarlet fluttered to a landing.
"Richard! Richard, my egg hatched! It's a beautiful little dragon, just as you said. I want you to come see it."
Scarlet seemed suddenly to notice all the men. Her big yellow eyes blinked. "Are we having trouble here? Do we need some dragon fire?" Richard grinned. "No, everything is fine."
"Well then, climb up and I'll take you to see the little one."
"If you'll take Kaelin too, I would love to come."
"If she is with you, she is welcome."
Richard climbed up onto Scarlet's shoulders as she lowered herself for him. Richard took Kaelin's hand as she swung her leg over Scarlet behind him. She put her arms around his waist and her head against his shoulders, squeezing tightly.
Richard leaned toward Zed. "Take care, my friend. Where will I find you?"
"I will be in Aidendrill with Addy. Come to me when you are ready, and then we are going to have a talk. A long,